I'm Gory B Movie, and tonight we're going to be talking about everything we love about Army of Darkness. And there's a lot to love because it's a great wholesome movie. I got some awesome guests for you tonight. With me today is the exceptionally handsome and talented Danny Nightmare from Horror Addicts.
Hey, I'm a horror addict, and I watch horror movies every day. I watched Army of Darkness twice today.
You did? That's
twice? Damn. Wow.
I mean, I've seen
Good for you.
Times, but as of today, I've seen it 1,002.
There you go.
And overall, this way, we've got two new friends to the channel. I hung out with them on the Oscars, but it's nice to finally have them here in the gory hole. It's just a little more personable. It's just kind of how I like to interact with people. So please welcome Cheers to Fears, guys. Tell them a little about yourself, what you do, all the fun alcoholism and stuff. I think makes sense in context, trust me.
Let's just start off. We're not alcoholics, we promise. We're just Canadian, that's all. Yeah. But I guess first and foremost, thank you for having us on. It's awesome that we're even invited on here. We appreciate that. And MAVERYK Media, we've not officially met, so I'm glad to officially meet you. That's awesome. I always love meeting new creators. Yeah. But I guess, what do we do on our channel? We make alcohol related
we do
horror
quite a
content.
few things. We do some very, longer. For the longer forms, we do podcasts. We do live streams. For live streams, we do pretty much anything. We try to incorporate alcohol. For shorts, we generally try to make drinks based on horror movies. So, for example, the one that we made, I think most recently that was on the channel was a Mother Deadite shot. So a shot that kind of tied into the new Evil Dead Rise movie. Obviously, we also make drinking games for horror movies. That's the main
kind
thing
of our bread and butter, I'd say. What we started the channel for.
Fun.
Just making drinking games for horror movies, old, new. Right now, there's been a lot of focus on new releases because there's been so many that we like to focus on. But that's kind of the gist of our channel. Combine alcohol and horror.
Games. You guys do fun lists and stuff. I think you guys did an Ash Quotes one recently.
Yeah, that was a live stream we did.
Stuff. It's kind of like alcohol's like the third character on the show. But, it's
pretty much.
Kind of alcohol, so it's all good. Alcohol and horror movies.
It changes the both of us a little bit. So, I mean, if you want to call it the fourth characters, there's intoxicated Alex and sober Alex. There's intoxicated Tucker, sober Tucker. We make appearances now and
again.
You
guys are fun drunk, so it's all good.
I don't drink a lot. I don't watch a lot of shorts, but I've been watching your guys' shorts because I like to see what drinks are making.
Stop looking at their shorts. It's weird.
You can look at our shorts all you want.
Right, you can look at their shorts. They gave you consent.
Or up our shorts if you want. That's fine too.
It's not a YouTube thing I've gotten really big on yet, but I've been watching you guys. It's because you guys make quick little videos where you just make the drink, and it's very interesting to me. So.
Yeah, we weren't fully on board. We weren't fully on board with shorts either because I don't know. It's kind of similar to like TikTok. We're not really into TikTok or anything, but honestly, it's been super helpful for our channel. It's gotten a lot of eyeballs on our channel, so We like
I need
doing them, and
to
they're
do that. I made one.
Yeah, well, like they get a lot more views quickly, I guess.
Yeah.
At least in our case.
Right.
They're really weird how they spike. It's generally like the first little bit it does all right, and then the next day it just like takes off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very evil. So this dapper gentleman below here-ish there is a good friend of mine, Maverick Media. I'm loving the gloves. I'm like everything you're doing on the red carpet right now
Yeah.
is my favorite thing.
I know. You know what? I think your show was the first time I unveiled this this garb, and it's stuck with me ever since. I need to wash it, but
I love it.
you know, yeah, I haven't taken it off since I think it was What We Love About, was it Halloween 3? I think was
Yeah,
maybe
probably.
I
We
think
love that
that's
one.
when I unveiled this, and yeah, and I love it, and I would not come here without it. So thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure being on here, and nice meeting you two Canadian gentlemen. Cheers to fears. I literally, you guys have such a great idea for a show or for a channel. Like I am new to you guys as well, and so I can't wait to check out all of your stuff. But I am someone who am an alcoholic, and I can't wait to I cannot wait to watch all your guys' content. You know, try out some of the.
We're all alcoholics, and this is our AA meeting, but you know, we're gonna do the rest of it.
The trick, I knew it.
Literally, like it's just bar all to the left side of me. So I'm gonna be checking out your guys' videos and making myself some of the cool drinks that you guys got going on. And yeah, I can't wait. But hello to everybody in the chat. I've been out of commish for a little bit. I had an accident last week, and I'm still recovering. But I would not miss this for the world, Gory. So I'm glad to be here.
Tell them a little bit about what you do on your channel.
It's it's mostly horror related. I do that sometimes too, Danny, when I'm doing live streams. So it's tricky getting the cup under the mask. But no, I usually talk horror movies. I do some reviews. I do like the most recent thing that I started was a what they shot versus what they got, talking about shorts, and it was going to what was actually shown in the Friday the 13th movies, and how the MPAA just really like, I have a saying that says they're the greatest slasher in horror movie histories is the MPAA, because of what they cut out of the horror movies. So yeah, I just do a lot of horror related stuff. I'm starting an Are You Afraid of the Dark review, like of the entire series, because I'm a 90s kid, and that's like right in my wheelhouse. So yeah. So you guys, it's kind of hit and miss. You know, I've been kind of behind the 8 ball on a lot of stuff, but it's being a dad and working full time and trying to fit this in. This comes on the back end. So but yeah, no, I'm glad to be here, and I can't wait. I absolutely love this movie, and I cannot wait to talk about it with you guys.
I'm super stoked to talk about it. In the spirit of Cheers to Fears, what's everyone drinking tonight?
Drinking Henry the Red.
Henry the Red. I got just a vodka seltzer right now. Going a little bit light tonight.
Go ahead. My bad.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to switch to alcohol in a bit. I'm just drinking these new things called Zevias. They're basically pops without all the calories.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'll probably end up mixing that with vodka or something later. Who knows?
Maple syrup, whatever's hanging around.
Nice. Yeah, I
George Killington Irish Red, but Henry the Red.
Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna go grab a beer right now because I just finished one right before we started the stream, so I gotta re-up.
There you go.
And we're gonna show off your shirts. We got some Army of the Darkness shirts today. So shop smart, shop as smart.
Trapped in time, surrounded by evil, low on gas.
Great tagline there. So while you go get your beer, let me introduce this movie a little bit. So this movie came out 1992. Probably before a lot of you in the chat were even born. But I remember, because I'm old, like the dirt, when TV trailers were coming on for this. And I was like, oh, that looks super cool. My mom's like, I think that's an Evil Dead sequel. And as I've mentioned on this channel many times, Evil Dead was kind of forbidden in my household. It was supposed to be like one of the scariest movies ever made. I was not allowed to watch it. But thanks to Army of Darkness, my mother sat us down for a full marathon. And I was entreated to the wonderfulness of this franchise, which I think, and now I've seen Evil Dead Rise, is a perfect franchise. Yep. Every movie in this franchise is gold. This TV series is gold. It's all gold. It's
Yep.
so good.
Literally.
It's banger after banger after banger.
Right.
They didn't do a single thing wrong in creating it. Even when they changed directors a couple of times, such as the new Evil Dead in 2013 or Evil Dead Rise, still fantastic movies.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, you know, Scream always gets the most consistent franchise. But Evil Dead, to me, it's right there. Like I could go any, one day it could be Scream, one day it could be Evil Dead for me. Like it's so consistent and so good. And it's I think obviously a lot more ambitious than Scream. You know, Scream kind of sticks into its formula, but Evil
Right.
Dead kind of takes you all different directions, and it's still so good. So
Neither
yeah,
franchise lets the bar go far down. It's
No.
always right up
Right.
there.
I
right.
think what sets Evil Dead up a little bit more than Scream, not much. You guys know I love Scream.
Uh-huh.
Is it's like what I've said before with some of the other franchises. I love Halloween, but that poor baby that is Michael Myers got dropped off at the firehouse after part 2. John Carpenter was like, "Yeah, I'm done being a dad at this thing."
Right.
Whereas Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell have lovingly raised this franchise,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're still producing now. They have never let this franchise, be taken away from them or passed it over. They have overseen it every step of the way, and I think that makes a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
They've been
Absolutely.
producers on every installment and TV series, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Even the new Evil Dead Rise.
Bruce
Yeah,
Campbell
there's
is
actually,
prepared.
without spoiling anything, there is a little Easter egg cameo. You might not notice it when you see the movie. It's really, really subtle, but Bruce Campbell does provide some voice work and
Yeah.
Foley work.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
voraciously ate an apple for some sound effects in that movie. So,
Oh, really?
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet, so I have to. I
I'm
definitely.
keeping it so vague
Oh,
as to
yeah.
not
Oh, yeah.
spoil anything.
Like
But
we watched it and I didn't notice it, but I just heard today from somebody else. I was watching another stream earlier and I heard from them about that cameo and I didn't even notice it the first time watching it either. So that makes me just want to go watch it for that reason.
I assume I know what you're talking about, but I didn't know. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense now because I can still remember the voice.
right.
I'm going to say hi to
Really.
the chat real quick if you want to go grab your beer, buddy.
Yes.
Really nice to see Kevin from Haunted by Horror, guys. Also a great channel. If you guys, fellow guests haven't seen him. Nice to see Jason, the nice one from the B Movie Coven. What up, dude? Wednesday, we're watching a movie together on the B Movie Coven. That's our membership group here on the channel. We just watch a lot of movies together. It's really fun. Hey, May Ann, nice to see you here. Dun, 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 dun. Echo Sarah's here. We got Katie from Poppin' the Popcorn. Got a nice full house in the Gory Hole, which, in case you're wondering, like, what does the Gory Hole look like? I'm a little afraid to go step into the Gory Hole. Well, the Gory Hole looks exactly like that pit at the beginning of Army of Darkness that explodes with blood. It's exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. So a little behind the scenes stuff. This was originally intended to be the second Evil Dead movie. But because of issues with like rights and everything and more things they wanted to do with the cabin in the woods concept, it ended up becoming the third one. But I love Sam Raimi's original title for this, which was going to be The Medieval Dead.
Yeah.
Come on, it was right there.
It was
That's
perfect.
a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. So, for some reason, the studio really kind of wanted to distance itself from the franchise, which I don't get.
Yeah, I don't
It
get
was
that either.
produced by Dino De Laurentiis, who helped a lot with financing, but he doesn't have the same vision as Sam Raimi on a lot of things. So, but thanks for the money. And another fun behind the scenes tidbit is Bruce Campbell's wife, whom he met on Mind Warp, did the costumes on this. So they got married right before this movie, and this movie was really hard to make. I compared the Evil Dead franchise a lot on the show to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one. The only difference is these guys were laughing the whole way, even though they were getting their asses kicked left and right with really dangerous stunts, tons of makeup, just mayhem. But they were having a lot of fun because they're making a movie with their best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of shows in the product that you get too. All the movies are so fun, and you can tell that they're kind of having fun with it, and it shows. And that's probably why every entry has been top-notch quality, because they're having fun with it the whole way through.
I think it makes a huge difference. Like we were watching the behind the scenes today, and it was funny just hearing people talk about Sam Raimi. They're like, he's making Bruce do all this crazy stuff just to show that he can make him do anything. Hey, Bruce, run around in a circle. He does it. Like, it's just really fun. Like how they just play with each other. They also told like their editor guy, they're like, oh, do you know De Laurentiis has a really bad memory? Like, we don't need to follow any of his cut suggestions. Don't worry about it. They send the poor guy in. He remembers everything, and the guy gets shouted at. They think it's hilarious.
That's awesome.
I love Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi has got, like, you know how there's good Ash and then there's bad Ash? Yeah. I feel like there's a little impish Sam Raimi within the other Sam Raimi. That's where all the asshole qualities of Ash come from. It just seems delightful.
Yeah, it just depends who appears on set that day, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. I originally wanted a scene where Ash would gather a bunch of children, probably the ones that were hitting him while he was tied up, and then like offer them as like a sacrifice to the army of the dead when they show up. Like he'd shut the gate behind them and let them all get mauled. But they were like, that might be too far for his character.
Nice to see. Now it's dark here in the chat and spooky Robin. So I'd love to hear from you guys. What was your first experience seeing Army of Darkness? Was it your first one? What were your first reactions? You know, the gist.
Well, I was 9 years old. That means you were 11, right?
Yeah, I'm an older woman.
My dad was the manager at the local theater here, and there was a giant one of these in the lobby. I got to take it home. I got to keep it for a couple of years before my dad said, "Oh, I got lost in the move." But I'm gonna have a tiny one now.
Look at that delicious nipple porn. We get so much of that with Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness.
Right.
Lovely.
Originally, my dad told me that I couldn't see that movie, but plenty of the girls that worked at the theater were also my babysitters. And they're like, "Well, we saw you go into that one," and I walked into that. They didn't care. Same thing with Freddy's Dead. That was my first 3D movie in the theater. We didn't see him go into that one. That's what they'd say.
Right.
I saw it, and it was just the coolest thing a 9-year-old boy could walk into, not even knowing what. I hadn't seen The Evil Dead at this point. I saw it shortly after this, but at this point, I didn't know what this was. I'm just like, what is going on? Why does this guy have a chainsaw hand? Why is he kicking so much ass? What is so cool about this? Like, I loved it.
Yeah,
so badass.
Ever a 9-year-old boy, I was like, I want to be him so bad. And I have my entire life wanted to be Ash Williams.
You kind of look like him. Just saying.
Shaving lately. I don't have the chin, sadly. That chin.
Oh, but within the chin is all like his asshole quality. I think that's where he stores them. So you're just like a nicer version of Ash.
Skeleton punches it's swollen over the ears.
I love Ash's asshole qualities, but I don't know if I want to be married to them, if you know what I mean.
But yeah, then I saw Evil Dead a couple years later, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And then I finally saw Evil Dead 2, and I'm like, and all
now I understand.
Yeah. With all the equations in the background.
So farm. But that's one thing Bruce Campbell was sad about, is that they wanted to distance themselves from the franchise. He even said, a lot of people don't even know this is an Evil Dead movie. I didn't. I mean, I was like 9/11, 12 when I saw all three of them. But yeah, that was my excuse. I was really young, but everybody else is like, oh, damn, that sucks that they would do that to their audience that way. Not the people making the movie. It's just
the cool thing about it, though, is you can watch this movie out of order, and it's just as enjoyable. I've shown this one. I think I showed it to my son first because it's the more kid-friendly one. I really think this movie could have been PG-13. They wanted it to be PG, but the ratings board really gave it a hard time. But yeah, I think you can watch this one first and still enjoy it. Like, you don't need to have seen the other ones.
Right.
I did.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was around the same age. I know I'm a little older than you, Danny, but I was around the same age when I saw it. It was around 9. I had my older brothers were super cool, and because they're 10 years older than me. So they would rent all this stuff that I wanted to watch. But I remember seeing the cover of Army of Darkness in the horror section, and it, for anybody that maybe remembers this, in the grocery store and bookstores, they had those romantic thriller carousels for women that would read. There wasn't Netflix or anything back in the early 90s, and the cover looked like one of those romance thriller. Had no idea that this was an Evil Dead sequel. So anytime I'd see it, in Blockbuster, I would just kind of pass it off. Like,
you were thrown off by the nipple porn.
Right, because I thought it was misplaced. I thought it was and it said Army of Darkness. It had nothing to do with Evil Dead. I didn't know that there was a third movie that was made. I thought it was like a book, like a soap opera, but in a book. Like that's what the cover looked like. So it really threw me off until one of my friend's older brothers said, "No, there's a third movie. It's called Army of Darkness." And that's when I did the math, and I was like, okay, I told my brother, we have to rent this movie. I want to see it. And yeah, that was my introduction to it. And I was like instant love, it immediately became my favorite. And I really do enjoy the first two also. But the biggest thing for it was, even at a young age, I've always been a big Three Stooges fan. And this movie, I mean, literally, like, box set. I've got so many box sets.
So cool.
Yes, like exactly. I was watching them earlier today. But there is the Three Stooges are injected into this movie, and they're all over this movie. I mean, you see a little bit in Evil Dead 2, but this movie went full slapstick comedy on top of, horror and everything else that they did. Like I said, this is the most ambitious of the horror movie franchises, I think. I also think this was the most ambitious of Sam Raimi's movies, doing what they did. And to me, it's like it's a no-brainer as far as what my favorite is, what checks every box for me. You got stop motion animation, you got puppets, you got Three Stooges, and you got Ash Williams. What more could you ask for in a movie? Like it's so great. So when I first saw it, I was just blown away. I was like, this is a masterpiece, and it's never really changed. It's always been that way for me. And
it's rewatchable. It's
exactly.
So good.
It is.
Yeah.
Such an adventure. The only one I'd say of his movies that might be a little more ambitious of a Raimi film, but not because he wanted it to be, it was probably Spider-Man 3, where they made him, they stretched him too thin. They're like, do all this.
That was pretty, the Tobey Maguire dancing on down the sidewalk was very, very ambitious.
I love watching the behind the scenes footage. You see him up in his crane, and he's like a little boy with his toys, and he's just like, "Oh, I want more skeletons to blow up." And I just love that he had such a cool, clear vision. And even though this is a studio film, it's the first and last studio film that Bruce Campbell starred in. Most of what he wanted is retained. Sometimes the studio gets involved and they really trash a director's vision, but they made some adjustments. But I still think this is very clearly what Sam Raimi had in mind when he started.
Plus, he got to at least film his ending that he wanted. Even they didn't go with that for the theatrical cut, and that's fine. But a lot of people don't even get to do that. So.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So what about Tucker and Adam versus Evil?
Alex.
Alex, shit. It was an A word. See, I'm as bad as Ash. I knew it started with an A.
To be fair, we don't really.
Every little syllable. Come on.
I didn't say it all, but
to be fair, we don't actually even say our
it.
names on our videos too often, so we don't blame you. Anyways, I guess I'll start.
Go for it.
The first time I watched it, so I was a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of bit late to the party. I wasn't born. Neither one of us was born when this got released. We were born in 95, so a few years late. Granted, we were 0 years old, 3 years late. But anyways, yeah. So the first Evil Dead that I saw was the first Evil Dead, and it's after I already got like into horror a little bit. So I watched Evil Dead, and I watched Evil Dead 2, and that's kind of where I stopped. I didn't even realize Army of Darkness was part of the Evil Dead trilogy at the time. And so I just put it off for years. I kept hearing the name Army of Darkness, and I didn't do any research or anything into it. So I just kind of passed it off. I had no idea that it was part of the Evil Dead. And if they called it Medieval Dead, I probably would have watched it a lot earlier.
Right.
But so finally, once I did get to watching it, like it was probably a few years ago, the first time I actually watched it. And I watched it, and I immediately like love the movie just because of the way they balanced the horror and the comedy and the way they carried it on from the second one, like going through that time portal or whatever. And it was just so much fun watching it. And like, I couldn't get enough, and I had to go immediately rewatch like the entire franchise from start to finish just because of this movie. It kind of re-sparked my urge to watch it and like get into the franchise. And yeah, like, it pretty much it just re-sparked my interest in Evil Dead as a franchise. And yeah, it's kind of thanks to this installment, I guess.
What about you, Tucker?
For me,
say it right? Every syllable, right?
I mean, I'm Tucker.
Yeah.
Shit! Okay, you know what? You're
I'm showing you guys for a loop.
That's it.
Nice.
Okay.
Done.
I'm bad with names.
Okay, so the first time I watched Evil Dead, I don't think I've told this story to too many people. Weirdly enough, it was in a church. I had one of those cool pastors.
Super cool. Damn.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no.
Are you sure they were not like hiding there covertly to like turn you over to Satan?
Are you? Yeah, I was gonna say, was it the Church of Satan by chance?
Jury's still
We're
out,
not
but
judging.
I mean,
No
he
judgment.
seems like a
Just
fairly
asking.
Christian fellow. But at the end of the day, yeah, his favorite genre of movies was horror. So yeah, we had a good old youth night. That was an all-nighter. I think the movies were Army of Darkness, From Dusk Till Dawn, part, what was it, 3, The Hangman's Daughter, which he regrets because there's a lot of nudity in that one that he was showing to a bunch of like teenagers. And then the other one was The Exorcist. But I'm pretty sure it started off with
The Exorcist. It is really Christian.
yeah.
It
See,
makes
that
sense.
one works. That one
You
makes
can
the
make
most
that
sense.
work.
Right?
Like, you know,
You
great.
can. There's an
Or
angle you
else.
can. You can take on that. For
The
sure.
Hangman's Daughter was there. There was a lot of regret, especially with all the.
There's
origin scenes
I
and
never
everything.
noticed it until today, but there are a pair of boobs in this movie. Like
Her hair is right over her nipples, though.
Well, no, on the bottom of the screen, they're dragging some slave girls by chains right when Sheila's getting
Yeah, I know. But
devoured.
that girl's got right there, right where her nipples are.
Just saying, there's some boobs, you
Side
know,
boob.
Side boob.
a little bit of boob.
Nice.
Okay, well, we get a lot of Bruce Campbell nipples, so everyone's happy.
Right?
God, Dan.
But yeah, so anyways, in a
Sorry.
church, no, it's all good. There was a great environment, though. It was a lot of fun. I was about 13, 14, so just turned, I think I was in grade 8 or 9. But I love the environment for the most part. The slapstick comedy, obviously, it's, I guess, a better movie to watch when you're kind of first getting introduced to horror. And I started watching horror when I was in like grade 6, 7, so I didn't know about it too well. So it's a great introduction movie to horror just because it has the horror elements, but it is, I guess, more widely known for its slapstick, especially in comparison to all the other Evil Deads.
Right.
So yeah, no, overall it was well received by everybody at the church.
That is so cool. I kind of love your church.
Right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I used to do Cub Scouts at the church, and I'd bring my Sega Genesis, and afterwards we'd all just play Mortal Kombat 2. So
Nice.
it's kind of cool that they let us do that. But yeah, like you were saying, it's kind of a good introductory to kids for horror because our kid, we showed it to him way before he ever saw the Evil Dead movies. So.
I think anything with a lot of comedy in it kind of helps bridge you into horror because the laughs keep it light. It doesn't get too serious.
Yeah.
You don't want your first horror movie to be like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. So this is nice because you're having a good time. There's a lot of levity. Even within this franchise, like this is probably the first one to start with if you're skittish, because I love the remake and I love Evil Dead Rise, but as far as the horror goes, it's just like punching you in the face with the horror. So if you can't handle scary stuff, maybe put those towards the end of your list, but definitely watch them when you can.
And I guess
we show kids.
Wait, what?
I don't babysit anymore.
So
no, you
I
don't
guess
babysit anymore because you were actually sitting on the babies.
That's what they told me to do.
They said-
and I didn't get paid. Wonder why. But yeah, I guess it was also mentioned that this was you, Danny Nightmares. This was your first time watching any Evil Dead movie. It was also my first time watching any Evil Dead movies. So I think that's a good thing for a lot of the franchise. You can go into almost any of them blind.
You really can. I mean,
Yeah.
even though it's part 2, in some ways it's almost like a remake. Though,
Right.
if you want, if you're really into just a full night of Evil Dead, there are places where you can stop and start, and you can actually make it a 3-part continuous film because they really do continue right after each other. But despite that, you can jump into any of these films and not know anything because they do such a good job of recapping what you need to know from the last movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So let's talk about what we love about Sam Raimi, which is everything. I just love him. I love that he is basically a grown-up boy who is playing with toys and is just like, give it more blood. And he puts all the things that he loves into his movies. He loves Three Stooges. And I love the Ray Harryhausen, Jason and the Argonauts, skeletons in this. You know, he just puts, if he loves it, he finds a way to get it in there. At one point, his editor said, you know, I don't think you have enough horror in this movie. And he's like, dude, get it straight. Evil Dead was a horror movie. Evil Dead 2 was a comedy. This is an adventure. So, I mean, it really is. And it's so cool that he's able to explore different subgenres within this franchise. And this franchise has so much room for exploration and creativity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even in this movie with introducing the 3 Necronomicons, right?
Yes.
And I don't know this. I could be wrong, but I was told that maybe this new Evil Dead movie involves one of the other Necronomicons. Is that
so?
Even...
The new movie, oddly enough, because I had a friend who's not super familiar with the franchise, and she asked me, like, how does this connect to the other ones? And mostly, if you want to watch a movie before you watch the new one, this is the one, because it mostly connects to Army of Darkness. As far as there being 3 books, there's a book that has like a vortex in it, and I'm not spoiling anything for you guys.
Right.
This is a small detail. You don't even really see a lot of it in the movie. It's just kind of what's explained out of the movie. That has like a vortex hole in it. That would be Mia's book in Evil Dead 2013.
Right.
There's one that bites him, and that's the one that we get in Evil Dead Rise that has the teeth.
Gotcha.
And then there's Ash's book. So there are 3 books now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I absolutely love that they did that, you know, because like you said, it does expand this universe. It gives you, if you want to, a multiverse, so to speak. And there's so many different, you know, avenues that they can take this and still stay within the realm of Evil Dead and the, you know, the book and the Deadites. And that's the best thing I think that they did with this movie, whether that was a conscious decision or just kind of a happy accident, to quote Bob Ross. You know, it's so cool that the ideas are limitless with this franchise. You know, whatever they decide they want to do with it. You know, so
I think what's also cool is they each kind of have their own big bad, to use a phrase from Buffy. But like you got Rotten Applehead from Evil Dead 2, which is like kind of the big bad that Ash faces. We've got the Marauder in the new one, which I'm not gonna tell you what that is. Just see the movie, and then the Abomination that Mia faces.
Right.
So it's growing this kind of lore and legacy, and it's really exciting. I guess Sam Raimi said he's actually writing a Bible for Evil Dead moving forward, because he knows he may not always be here when they keep making Evil Dead in the future, or he may not want to be involved. But he's making a Bible of kind of rules, which I think it just shows his love.
His passion
It's
for
his
the
own
whole
baby book for his creation. And he also said recently, because Evil Dead's been kind of like a once a decade we get an Evil Dead movie, and he's like, no, it's going to be once every 5 years. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think that Bible will be key for sure. Go ahead. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to see an Evil Dead once every 5 years, just because
minimum,
how consistent the franchise is. Like no bad movies in there whatsoever. It's like Scream in the sense where you're like, okay, I could do with another Scream movie just for that sense, because you know the movie's probably going to be good.
It's like Jello. There's always room for another Evil Dead movie.
They never like jump their shark. This one is the closest, and it's still great, where they jump a shark in a sense. They go crazy with it.
So I want to ask you guys kind of like what you love about Sam Raimi and his vision, his way of directing, his way of doing visuals. In addition to directing it, he also co-wrote it with his brother Ivan. I love that he's so close to his brothers. It is not a Sam Raimi movie without the Delta and without Ted Raimi. And this one, he co-produced and co-wrote with his brother Ivan. So
who's a physician
really
by trade. So I guess I'll start with Sam Raimi. Like, first and foremost, we already talked about his passion and love for like this franchise and how he's been a producer on every installment and the TV series. And that's the first thing that you gotta love and respect about Sam Raimi, is he puts his heart and soul into this franchise, and it shows through what you get as a final product. And just the work that he puts into it, the care, and even the details that go into like every installment, it's fantastic. And it kind of just shows how good he is at his role as a director and co-writer, and it's like all all hands on deck for him. He's part of everything, I guess. And I don't remember exactly how old he was when he directed the first Evil Dead, but he was super young, wasn't he? Like 22.
Yeah, I don't know how old, but it was fresh out of college.
Like,
he did Within the Woods as like his college film, which is kind of the prototype for Evil Dead. It was kind of to show like a proof of concept. And then he did this Evil Dead as soon as he got out of college.
But they were doing like little Super 8 short films even in high school. They started filming everything and making whatever they could. And,
yeah, he's one of those guys where it's like you knew he popped out of the womb and he's like, I'm going to be a director.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And anyways, the fact that he basically came up with this whole concept that young is just impressive in itself. And then to create more installments, like they're all like 6 years apart or something, 4 or 5 years apart, whatever, and they were still all solid and still connected to one another, and he still cared about it after all those years, which, I mean, yeah, that's the main thing about Sam Raimi that I love and respect, I guess.
Very well said. Alex.
Okay, there you
go.
Wait, were you talking to me? Am I Alex now? Or who's Alex? Him or me?
No, you're Adam.
You're Mav. You only have one syllable, so I'm not going to mess it up.
Got it.
So,
okay, just making sure.
However, what I really enjoy about Sam Raimi is that he is not afraid to do whatever the hell he wants. So, Evil Dead, horror movie, kind of campy, sure, whatever. And people were just like, man, this is a scary ass movie. Even Stephen King was saying, like, man, one of the scariest movies of the year. And then what is he gonna do instead of making another horror scary movie? He's like, let's make a comedy for the same franchise. For the same franchise.
At a time when that was not done.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess really horror comedy wasn't too big, especially especially where people were starting their own franchises in the Bronze Age of horror, I guess, with Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers, so on and so forth. The list goes on. But I've always admired that he doesn't care what anybody else thinks. He just wants to do his own thing.
Yeah.
And you can see that in like Spider-Man. It's like, I should just have Peter Parker dancing down the streets.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, Sam, so a horror movie, what do you think? Yeah, let's make it a slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
And like every time it works.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of people in a lot of art forms, I have a friend, Mr. Creepypasta, and he tells me that he gets burnt out a lot because he does almost exactly the same thing on his channel all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think what's cool about directors like Sam Raimi, and something that anyone who's a creator can take from him, is he finds ways to keep it exciting for him. What else tickles him? Yeah. Three Stooges, Ray Harryhausen. He's gonna find, he's tickled by comic books. He never lets himself get boxed in. Mm-hmm. He never lets himself be forced to do the same thing again. And I think that's something that we can all take away from Sam Raimi is if there's something that you love, you can find a way to incorporate it into what you're doing.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. Because especially from creators like Mr. Creepypasta. I watched him like when I was younger. It's like I want to say I started watching him when I was like in 2013, so like right before I got out of high school. So like he's been doing that for like 10 years, and I'm not sure if his content has changed at all, but it's basically just been like reading creepypastas, and I can see how that gets super
tiresome, burns you out.
Like he's tried. His audience doesn't really accept any variation, but that's because I think he waded pretty deep into it. But Sam Raimi established pretty early on, like you're never going to see the same Sam Raimi movie twice. And I think that was a really smart move on his part.
Like they'll all have his feel, but they'll all be different.
Yes, they're undeniably Raimi, from Darkman to Spider-Man to, Doctor Strange. But he always finds a way to do something different. And I think that keeps his career exciting for him and keeps it exciting for us as an audience.
Yeah, and it's what makes a lot of it so memorable. He's not afraid to think outside of the box and do things that are super unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I mean, my two new friends from Canada basically said everything that I wanted to say. But just more or less, like it could have been so easy for him to sell out after the first Evil Dead. He could have done whatever the studios wanted. He could have made this and Halloween is my favorite franchise, but he could have done what they did with Halloween with it. He could have had them have a million sequels, and just he's doesn't conform. He's very unconventional, and when he has a vision, you are going to see his vision, right? He's not going to let somebody dictate. Obviously, maybe there's some things that he can't fight, like the MPAA and stuff like that, but I just love the fact that he sticks to his guns. We never know what we're going to get when it's a Sam Raimi project, but that's the fun in Sam Raimi, is whatever it is, whether it's Spider-Man or Evil Dead, it doesn't matter. Doctor Strange, am I glitching out? It looks like
a little bit, but you're okay.
A little bit, but
Just for a second, but you're good.
It's kind of cool.
It's just whatever he touches, it's going to be unique, and I appreciate that. I appreciate somebody not selling out and just being themselves. That's the most charming thing about him, and why I love him so much.
Very well said. What about you, Danny?
I love the fact that it doesn't really matter to him if he's got no money or if he's got a lot of studio money. Like, I think he probably prefers having a lot of it. Yeah. But I think the fact is that he's going to take us down a rabbit hole that's going to be, better or worse, a truly experience that we won't forget. They're either way. Like when in the first Evil Dead movie, they didn't have much money. They were out there just doing whatever they're doing, and it was torturous, but he loves torturing his friends and brother. So his brothers. But yeah, he'll like get creative with the camera if he has to. He'll find a way to be creative, even if he doesn't have like all these toys to do stuff. If he has like cranes, if he has, even Spider-Man 2, like he's like, you know what? It's a superhero movie, but I don't care. When Doc Ock's in the operating room, he kills all those surgeons and like people that are trying to like remove his stuff. And it's a horror movie, like shot for shot. If you like change the music, just think about it. That's scene out of context where Doc Ock kills all the people in the hospital. That's a horror movie.
The way it's shot, everything about it is horror.
Exactly. Yeah. There's like the loud noises and everything is just like a shot that would be in a horror movie. Same thing when he did Doctor Strange. It's like, yeah, you could see some Spider-Man 2 in there. You could also see some Evil Dead 4 in there. Like knock it in there. Like, yeah.
He had a cape of corpses.
Exactly, a cape of corpses.
Right? Yep.
Finds a way to show his imagination. Whatever it is, he like has fun. Like he plays like you said with toys in a sense. He tells a story and he's like, this is how it's gonna go. Sometimes people are like, maybe Ash shouldn't kill kids, and they stop him out of an idea, or I'll be hiding in a closet and a little girl will find him. But they talk him out of some of his ideas, but he just has like an endless well of ideas. Like that gusher of blood, that's Sam Raimi's ideas, just coming out for everyone to see. Stand back or you're gonna get wet. And I love that about him.
Absolutely. To get a quote from our chat here in the Gory Hole, Jason says, Sam Raimi is a national treasure. I love and admire his passion, imagination, and pours all of his heart into everything he works on. I've always had fun, and I feel I haven't wasted my time with his films. I agree.
Very well
for me, he has such a clear vision. One of the things Greg Nicotero, who works for KNB and was one of the companies that worked on effects in this film, mostly the Deadites, he said it amazed him that he saw the storyboards for this, that Sam Raimi did. What was filmed was exact. He had such a clear vision. He knows exactly what he wants. He can see it all in his head before film has even started running. And yet he's so willing to be like, on the fly, one of his lines was, Bruce, I want you to say, give me some sugar, baby. And Bruce is like, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. So you're going to say it. And it's amazing. It's one of the most quotable lines from the film. Like he has a clear vision, but he's so adaptable. He is so willing. We're going to talk about characters in that bit here, but there's so many people who said, I love this movie franchise. I want to be a part of it. And he's like, we're going to find a place for you. Like he's adaptable. Right. He's as good as somebody like James Cameron and stuff who are so exact, but he's so flexible. And I think that's really cool. He's fiercely creative. Stephen King said with the first one, it was the most fiercely original film of the year. This is maybe one of the most fiercely original horror films of all time. It's insane. Like try explaining this to somebody in one sentence. It's really difficult to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's so different. I love that he has this like 12-year-old sensibility where he just wants slapstick and gore, and he just has so much fun. Like, we need skeletons exploding because skeletons exploding. I really like that. It kind of reminds, I think, all of us about that little kid in us who watched horror movies just to see weird shit happen.
Right.
And he will deliver that weird shit, and he's continuing to deliver it well into his later years. He's I wouldn't say he's an old man, but he's old enough to be my dad.
Right.
And he's still just delivering me and the rest of the audience things that we've never seen before. Shape of corpses, guys.
Yeah. I can't remember the director for the Resident Evil video game, the very first one. I can't remember the creator of the game's name, but he wanted originally they were gonna have ghosts, but they're like, no, let's have zombies. What he was mostly like concerned with is like they had like a fixed camera, like overhead view on almost all the rooms, and like this is so boring, no one's gonna be scared. So he watched some movies and he said Evil Dead was especially what inspired him to have Resident Evil have different cool, creepy camera angles every room you go into. So that's the fact that Raimi just did that with a cheap little cabin movie that I love, but that's what it was, low budget. This big video game franchise was like inspired from it.
If you took this movie and you took his creative vision as far as how he moves the camera out of it, you wouldn't have the masterpiece that it is. And I do think this is a masterpiece. I think Evil Dead 2 is. I don't think it's fair to regulate these on, even though I love B movies, this isn't a B movie. We're in the A tier here. What he's doing with the camera, no shot is just we're going to just get this done today so we can move on to the fun stuff. Every shot is the fun stuff. The way he's twirling that camera, finding different ways of approaching the action is so unique. It's amazing. And what he does with his resources, I see a lot of people, and I love that about our community where they're like, well, come on, they had a low budget, they couldn't do better. Yeah, Sam Raimi, whether he is a big budget or a low budget, makes everything look phenomenal. If you're creative enough, you can make the most of your resources. And Sam Raimi shows us that.
Even when nothing's really happening, you're on edge because of those camera angles. Like anything could happen at any moment.
Yeah. Right. Well, and he, speaking of creative, he always finds a way to get his vehicle from the first Evil Dead movie in every film that he makes.
He does. I thought he missed some. He used parts of it to make the dolls in Oz the Great, and
that's on the wall.
He'll use parts of it into different things in movies.
Briscoe County Jr., the show, there's a part where there's the guy has a big wagon, and it's really the Oldsmobile just disguised as a wagon. Like he broke it down and put a frame, like a wood frame over it.
But that's because he's superstitious, because he believes if he doesn't make one with the Delta, that the film's just not going to be any good.
Superstitious, but creative, nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah. Bruce kind of has like a rivalry with the car itself himself, because when they were doing like their old Super 8 films, Bruce almost died doing a stunt where he like got hit by it and flew off. But they also noticed that when they showed that to their friends, their audience at the high school or whatever, that got like the biggest crazy reaction ever, and that's why they wanted to start doing more physical like performances. That kind of got them into horror too. They love to do that because of the Three Stooges, slapstick. But just anytime that someone would take, in a wrestling term, a bump, the crowd would go whoa. So that's why they really wanted to go crazy with blood and effects and just being people thrown around. And but he loves that car. But it's funny, in Spider-Man, he saw it on the lot and he had people move it and hide it, and then he later told Sam that it got towed because it was parked illegally. And Sam started freaking out and yelling, "Who parked it illegally? Why is it towed? Go get it now!" And later he found out just Bruce had it moved.
I think that's a perfect segue into talking about the characters and the actors in this movie. But quick, what he did with Briscoe County Jr., he also did with The Quick and the Dead. So if you're thinking, oh, that one, he played it safe. Oh, no, the Delta's in there. But let's talk about Bruce Campbell. I mean, that's a whole segment on its own. Bruce Campbell and Ash, both incredible. Like what we love about Bruce Campbell and Ash in this movie.
Well, I can start. Bruce Campbell and Ash. I'll try not to steal what everyone else is going to say this time.
You're cool. I'll just fill in whatever doesn't get said by other people.
All right. So Ash, I'll start with Evil Dead, the first one where we got introduced to him. He was a good character, but he was kind of a side character in that. And then we saw him kind of take shape in Evil Dead 2, where he's, in a sense, he's almost taking after Scott in a way, Scott's replacement in a way.
We've talked about that a lot. Our theory is that because Scott was so important to him and he was somebody who wasn't the typical person to survive a horror movie, he borrowed from Scott. Like, well, what would Scott do?
Okay.
And that's where the cockiness comes from. And that's where some of those behaviors come from.
Jokes.
It's like he's carrying him with him.
Yeah. That I've heard. Actually, I think I've heard you guys talk about that. I brought that up the other day too.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, that's probably where I heard that from. I think, so Sam Raimi couldn't get the actor that played Scott for the second one. That's why he kind of changed the story from the first to the second in the introduction of Evil Dead 2. Sam Raimi offered to, or he like had the idea to play Scott and then ultimately decided against it for whatever reason. But yeah, I think he kind of liked the kind of cockiness of Scott, so he wanted it in his next installments as well. And I think Ash kind of took that role and not just took it, but like elevated it to the extreme and just made that character what it is today. So it started like kind of formed a foundation in Evil Dead 2, and then Army of Darkness, I think, just cemented Ash as like the face of Evil Dead for the franchise and just made him the most like lovable character for weird reasons. Like, he's such an asshole, but he's lovable at the same time, and you kind of like, you can't get enough of him. And he's a straight shooter. He tells it like it is. And with Ash and Bruce Campbell's delivery, especially in Army of Darkness, the quotes from Ash is kind of one thing that makes this movie so good, because there's so many famous one-liners from this movie. And that's like, just Ash as a character, you can't say enough good things about him, I guess.
Very well said. Very well said. What up, Alex? Look at me. I've gotten erased twice in a row now.
So, I guess my favorite thing about Bruce Campbell portraying Ash Williams is his method acting. So I'll take an example straight from Evil Dead 2, where his hand gets possessed and the hand actually looks like an actor itself. Like, it's obviously Bruce Campbell controlling his hand, but just the way that it's done, it looks so perfect, I guess. Like, you'd actually believe that his hand is possessed, and he's a very good like method actor, I think, and that works very well in slapstick comedy. So in Evil Dead 2, in Army of Darkness rather, where he's getting attacked by the little Ashes, and he's singing London Bridge is Falling Down,
or Little Goody Two Shoes,
or Little Goody Two Shoes. Yeah, that's the other thing. He plays badass so well.
I found out recently there's no word for goody in French, so when they watched that movie, he's saying Little Singing Saint Boy.
Saint Boy.
That works too. I could see that working.
But yeah, my favorite part is his quotes, his method acting, and just the overall character and his development for the most part.
Good point.
Yep. So Bruce Campbell, or Ash, whoever, Williams, is he's the man I'm still aspiring to be. At 36 years old, I'm still working my way to be like him. Now, the thing that I love the most about this character is you really see from the first Evil Dead movie up to Army of Darkness, you see not just the growth of the character that they wrote, but you see the growth of Bruce Campbell as an actor and his, the level of comfortability. Now, granted, if you know how things were behind the scenes for Evil Dead, it was a pretty uncomfortable movie to make, but just he's so comfortable and he's so natural and he seems so in his element by Army of Darkness. And he was what once I realized the whole the rules of scary movies and final girls, he gave me hope that I could be a final guy if shit ever hit the fan. Right? Like I could be like him. Because it usually, for the most part, it was females that were making it towards the ends of these movies or making it out alive.
It's in our DNA, dude.
Right. So that's why I'm still trying. I'm still waiting for shit to hit the fan so then I can have my Ash Williams moment. I do have boomsticks all over this place.
Nice.
And I practice with them. I got them from S-Mart if you guys are looking to
I see you have both hands though.
Yeah, well, I'm not that method of an actor. I'm not going to lose.
He's got kids. Give him time.
Yeah,
I know. I don't know.
Just seeing how comfortable he was in this movie, and he's funny, he's an asshole, he's stupid, but you love him the entire time. Even when he is being a little bit of a dick, you still love him. I love the scene where they're trying to make sure that he gets the chant right, and he's like, I got it, and then he goes and he flubs it up, and he still doesn't care once he realized
they should have known, or he should have known he'd have a hard time with that. I thought about that today, how in The Evil Dead, the first one, he's trying to tell that story to Scotty and everybody, and he can't remember the quote. Like,
as
we
my
should
Greek
have known
friend
he'd
once
have
said,
a hard time.
Right.
Should have wrote it down for him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But
they didn't have pens back then.
I love how it comes back in the end too, because at the end of the movie, so you
Yeah.
say it right this time. Well, maybe not every syllable.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah.
But
That old guy had a quill somewhere. He could have wrote it for him.
Right.
Tattoo it on him.
Tattoo it on him. Yeah.
Yeah. No matter how of all the range of different personalities that we get from him, you love him the entire time, and he doesn't feel like he's putting it on. He feels authentic, and that is my favorite thing about both Bruce Williams and the character Ash Williams, is it feels like it's a real person. It's not somebody just pretending. So, yep, that's it.
Really nice to see my big horror brother Craven here in the chat. I'm so glad you're feeling better, dude.
Yes.
Really nice to see you.
Good to see you, buddy.
Okay, so like I said, I saw this movie when I was 9 in the theater. Went into it and blown away on everything I was seeing in the big screen. Just especially as soon as that blood sprayed out, I was just like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. And we're only about 15 minutes in.
Right.
I know you're my kind of people when that's your thought, when you see the geyser of blood.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, I'd seen Predator, I'd seen Rambo, and, I liked action heroes enough. But I never thought I was going to grow up to look like or act like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was never a thought in my head. Like, I'll be like him. No, but when I saw Ash, and I didn't even know his backstory at this point, I just like, he's in time and he has a chainsaw hand. But I was just like, I just want to be like this guy. Like, I don't know why. I know he is being like an asshole at some point. And later on, as I got older, and I found out his backstory, I'm like, okay, I give him more of a pass for being an asshole because he's had a hell of a weekend. Up in the cabin and everything that he's gone through with his friends and his girlfriend and everything. And so I mean, I'd kind of be a dick too about a lot of that stuff. These people are like, yeah, save us, go get us a book for us, and he's just like, I'm tired of this. I'm done. Like, fine, I'll go get the damn book. But at this point, he doesn't remember the words because he doesn't care about them. He cares about himself because he wants to just get home and be done with this whole adventure. He didn't ask to be like the savior of the world and whatnot. And he's relatable because most people would be reluctant to do some of this stuff. Like, yeah, go jump down into a pit and fight a pit bitch. Pit bitch. Like, it's unrealistic. Like I'm saying about like Rambo and stuff. Where sometimes they're like, haha, I live for this. They'll jump down there and fight it and kill it. And it's like most people wouldn't be like that.
And he still has the scars from every movie.
Exactly. Most people would be like, go do this.
Continuity.
I don't want to go do that. Are you stupid? Like, get myself killed, but he does it when he needs to. He is a badass. He is like able to rise to the situation, but most people would, and he's also a dumbass, which most people are. Like, you can't be looking cool all the time. And there are those scenes in the movies where he acts all cocky and looks cool. There's plenty of scenes where he slips and falls on his face too. It's just how it is. He'll fly off his horse and go head first into a mud puddle, and no one was there to see it, but we all know he did it.
Right.
So he's very relatable. We all wish we were perfect, but we're not. None of us are. And it's just cool to see this character not be perfect at all, but do what needs to be done. And that's all I think we all really want to be, is the guy who can maybe do what needs to be done when it's forced upon us.
Very well said, love. I think what you said was really cool. And I love that Bruce Campbell is kind of the antithesis of a final girl. He's not pure. He's a ladies' man. This movie alone, he has 3 different chicks. Like, he works at S-Mart. It's not like he's a spy. He's not James Bond. He works at a department store. You know what? He fucking loves it. So get off his case.
He's not Tony Stark.
Exactly. He's cocky. He's a braggart. He is selfish. He doesn't really have any special skills. He's kind of an asshole. He can be cowardly. These are all qualities that I think men are taught early on. Like, don't be like this. That's not the kind of man you want to be.
Yeah.
And he is the exact opposite of that. And I think what ties him to the final girl is we know at the heart of it, he's a good guy. You know, at the heart of it, he might say he's really selfish and cowardly, and he is, but he will face that and do the best he can to try to be the hero that he needs to be. And with him, I think it's almost more heroic because we know he's afraid. We know it's not easy. We know he can lose his hand. Whereas like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're like, oh, come on, but a scratch, he'll be fine. Ash has real consequences. And so when he finally does hero up, it means something a little bit more.
Plus, I think that he becomes more of a bragger and in a sense, a womanizer as he goes.
Yep.
Because he's trying to deflect in a sense. Like, yes, he likes the ladies. Of course he does. But he started off as like this hopeless, naive romantic that wanted to give his girlfriend a necklace at a cabin. That's all he really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But now, like, he didn't get to save her. Like, he's lost that specific girl 3 times now. Like, she's died 3 times.
That's true.
I would kill to be a Linda in one of these movies.
You'd have to die to be a Linda. That's like,
I know.
That's the saying.
I'm fine with that.
But he's lost her. He's not good at even saving his friends. He does deflect. He does want people to think he's an asshole, so they'll stay away from him, and he won't have to try and save them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with being Ash, is it's a very lonely ride. He can save himself, he can defeat the evil, but he almost can never save anybody else. And I think you're right. I think part of being an asshole is pushing people away because he doesn't want to get close to anybody and have to lose them and suffer, because obviously we know that he loved Linda so much that just seeing the necklace he gave her is enough to have him do what nobody else has done and come back from being a Deadeye. He must have really loved this girl.
And Sheila got a happier ending than most of the girls that are around Ash, but she still went through hell. Like, bad shit happened to her.
Right.
And he has a bit of survivor guilt, I'm assuming, not just for the girls, but other friends that are near his life that have been horrifically killed and mutilated by.
He's trying to look out for other people, but I think he's also trying to protect himself because, you know, when you think about it, this is the worst weekend anyone's ever had. He goes out to a cabin in the woods to hang out with his buddies and his girl, and from there, he really hasn't had a break. It is the worst weekend imaginable. Watch it back to back, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So I see why he has become this way, and I like that it shows us that we can be good people and still be very, very human and flawed, because I think we all know that Ash is a good person or we wouldn't root for him.
And then when you go with the original ending, he wakes up way in the future and he has to like apparently lead Deadeye or fight against Deadites with like cyborgs and robots. Like, never got to there. Even the show finally gets you back there. But I mean, we never see it, but we know that's kind of his fate in the end.
And to comment on Bruce Campbell, you know, I think it is sad that he's tried to do big studio movies countless times and it's never quite worked out for him. He should be an A-list actor. He's incredibly talented. But I feel like when it comes to us horror fans, he's the king. He is it's like you tell someone you met Bruce Campbell, you're like, holy shit, you met the king? Like he is our Elvis.
Oh yeah,
King baby, right?
Point. There is a Bruce Campbell con.
Yeah,
we worship this man,
now, I think.
And it's because he has never been embarrassed with the genre. He owns being a B movie actor. He owns being a horror movie actor. He owns us as his audience. And he puts his all into it, whether it means that he's putting his body on the line. You know, he does a lot of his own stunts. He does have a lot of, he does have some help sometimes with stunt doubles, but a lot of those pratfalls and stuff, like that thing you just showed, he does himself.
Right.
Not anymore, though.
On top of that, you know, he's also creative. He works as a co-producer, still does on the Evil Dead movies. For this one, he learned how to ride a horse, and you know he admits he wasn't very good at it. He said it was so good he had a cape because he was playing ass saddle battle back there. He was just hopping up and down. He got it down for Briscoe County, but there's nothing he isn't willing to do, and he doesn't cry about it when he had to go to the hospital for this one. The scar on his chin here is real. Right. He cut himself on his costume, but
chest plate.
For him, That's just part of it. And the one thing he doesn't have patience for is people who aren't willing to dedicate themselves to this. I guess there was an extra at one point who wasn't doing the militant walk. And he's like, hey, you just heard Sam. You need to do this. You're not doing it. And the guy's like, well, I'm not in the military. He's like, but you're playing somebody who is. And the guy ripped off his beard and like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm just like, I wish I could time travel so I could take that guy's place because I'll wear that beard and I will learn how to military walk.
For his book, Make Love the Bruce Campbell Way, I think he just kind of tweaked that because it's about this angry extra who was like fired off the stage, who's like seeking revenge to ruin Bruce Campbell's career, but he was an extra on Army of Darkness. Though in the book, it's because the guy was underage and they kind of found out and they're like, sorry, kid, you can't be on here because of union rules. Whatever. I'll get you, Bruce Campbell.
But he gives his whole, and he does expect that from other people, and I think that's cool. I think he raises the people he works with to be their best.
Oh yeah, like
I think that's why him and Sam Raimi are a perfect coupling as far as director and actor.
When I was a kid and I saw this, Ash was my hero, and I wanted to be like him. But as I got older and I noticed Bruce Campbell like in other movies and just learned more about him when I got his books, especially his first one, If Gins Could Kill. I just realized that it wasn't Ash really so much my hero. It was Bruce Campbell that was my hero. That I love a lot about that guy.
I want you guys to listen to the song when you can. Everyone here, Psycho Sticks, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah,
that is the best ode to the man that has been written.
There's a couple of songs about him too. I can't remember her name, but she has a song that I usually use it when I'm promoting stuff on Instagram for my stories, but it's like some girl, she's like, I wish Bruce Campbell was my boyfriend.
So we're going to get into the other characters in this movie that are also awesome. But first I want to check in with our chat here. Awesome people in the gory hole. Jason the Nice One says, Bruce Campbell is such a fun actor. He commits to the role completely that he plays. Ash is such a three-dimensional character and someone you'd love to be friends with. I agree. I think he's someone we'd all love to have a beer with.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mika Burr says, Ash goes from uninterested secondary character to a comedic badass. Bruce took what he learned from being the character and improved on it in every installment of Evil Dead. Absolutely.
100%.
Craven says, this is my boomstick. One of the best quotes in the movie.
Yep.
Haunted by Horror says, cheers to fears. Cheers to fears. You guys need to make a drink called Klaatu Parada Nikto. Get on that, my guys.
That I almost got one.
I'd rather make a Kraka Boxo.
I love it.
And the cough is just like spilling a bunch of alcohol into it.
Yep. That's the one you have when you had too many.
Super clean drinks.
I got 2 ingredients for that already, based on the first 2 words.
I love it.
Kahlua.
Cal L says shop smart, shop X smart. And my Chucky Jordy, our buddy from the UK, is here. By the way, guys, I've been wanting to do like a Canucksploitation like month or week or something. I'm gonna need you guys to come up with a really tasty drink that has maple syrup in it for me.
Oh, that shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah.
You guys got this covered. Because I love Canadian horror.
What you were saying about Bruce Campbell not quite making it as an A-lister, and originally I felt there was some bitterness. If you read his books, that originally he was, because he was supposed to be the main character in Dark Man.
And he works hard, and we're taught in America, if you work your hardest, you're going to get what you want. And unfortunately, that's not how it goes.
He worked really hard, but they replaced him in Dark Man, not because Raimi wanted Bruce, obviously. One of the reasons why Bruce actually survives the Evil Dead movie it's not just like some like, hey, let's break the trope and not have a final girl. They weren't thinking that. What Sam Raimi was thinking was like, well, he's my best friend. I know he can be a one-man act at the end when I need him to. Plus, I can torture him more than I can torture anybody else. So when he goes down in that basement and gets all covered with the blood and all tortured, it's because he knows that. That's the reason why Bruce Campbell survives the movie. It's like not a hidden like satire reason. It's just because like I know my friend can carry this. I also have more access to him than other actors, like with reshoots and everything else. But yeah, Bruce worked his ass off and he got like replaced in Dark Man, which sucks. And he kind of found out that there was a glass ceiling for him. But like you said, he gets to be the king of the B pond instead of just being a random fish in the A pond. So you know what? I think eventually he's come around where he just embraces it nowadays. Very happy with it.
All right, so now let's talk about what we love about the other actors and characters in this movie. Bruce Campbell obviously is the highlight, but who else do we love in this movie? What other characters and actors that contribute to the film?
Do you have one that comes to mind?
Badass.
that counts, my dude.
I'm just trying to think.
I mean,
if you want, we can go the other way around and you guys can think about it. I'm sure Danny can start.
I mean, I have one that comes to my mind, but you go ahead, Danny.
Okay. Well, I want to bring up the captain of the Evil Dead.
Will you be offended if I go to the Gory's room?
Of course not.
All right, love. You got this.
Yeah. So I don't know how many people even know this, but Bill Moseley's in this movie.
Yep.
Yes.
He is the eye patch Captain Deadite that works underneath Evil Ash. It's funny because he's got this horse next to him. He's on a horse and he's all on his Deadite gimmick, but he's got this other like skeleton that's on a horse. It's a fake, just prop skeleton. They can puppet and make it talk. They ride up to Evil Ash and Evil Sheila at this point, and it's not even Bill Moseley who gets to deliver the lines, even though he's wrangling the horse stuff. It's the puppet that talks and like gives him the news. And then later on, when they're fighting and they storm the castle, they give Bill Moseley his character a line, but it doesn't even sound like Bill Moseley. It sounds like that puppet again. So I can't be for sure. I don't think Bill Moseley actually got to speak in this movie, even though his character technically did. I don't think it was him who was talking. But I just think it's funny.
He does like his own British accent that he kind of modeled off of Jabberwocky.
It was him. It was Bill Moseley talking. Okay, it doesn't sound anything like him, but it's still funny. It gets one.
He
line.
does. Bill Moseley actually contacted Sam Raimi and was like, "I'm a massive fan. Find a place for me in your movie, no matter what it is. I'll do it." And he's like, "Well, can you do a British accent?" And so he's like, "Well, I've seen Jabberwocky. I'm going to try to go with that." That's what he does in the movie.
Yeah. So he was also like, I can act too, because he was just kind of doing stunts, pulling this fake dummy around on another horse, but whatever. So, just think it's cool that he's in there.
So we'll go the other way around. Maverick?
Okay, so Pit Bitch. Also, yeah, I love Pit Bitch as a short a period of as short a period of time as they're in the movie. But that was also the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yes,
from Ghostbusters.
Good catch.
So that is a fun addition to the movie, but also Ted Raimi. Ted Raimi is I mean, Sam is very loyal to his people, and Ted Raimi being in it. Bill Moseley was going to be my probably my first pick, but those are my two, I would say, other favorite additions to this movie is Ted Raimi's character and Pit Bitch.
Ted Raimi plays 4 different characters in this movie. He's the skeleton that screams. He is the stock boy at S-Mart. And he's 2 different people in the army. He's the cowardly one who's like, I can't do it. And then he comes back with a different look. And he's like, yes, I'm with you.
He's a blacksmith because he's like, you'll have my steel. Raimi's steel.
Yeah.
So, I gotta go get some real quick.
All right.
Yeah, I love Ted Raimi being always popping in, even in Ash vs. Evil Dead. So Ted Raimi and Pit Bitch are my 2 favorite ancillary characters to the story.
Awesome. Yeah, he was also obviously Henrietta in Evil Dead 2. Raimi. He's great.
Exactly.
He'll do it.
Yeah, he'll do it.
Yep. Well, he's good in Ash vs. Evil Dead too.
I forgot to show off that my mouse pad is actually an Army of Darkness mouse pad. I had it in the other room to use my laptop.
Yeah, my dog just chewed my mouse pad, so I'm gonna need a new one. So,
Best Buy. I don't know if you guys got one nearby, but they have these steel books, these 4K.
Very nice.
Army of Darkness. Yeah, it's I think Shout Factory put these out. Yeah, or Scream Factory. Yeah. Those are it's amazing. I freaking love it. I didn't think I could love this movie anymore, and then I got the 4K edition.
Yeah, the Scream Factory really went all out. There's like an 1.5 hour long documentary on there. They have the director's cut, the theatrical cut, and the international cut. So definitely worth it. And even if you have that already, like I have it, I need to upgrade to the 4K. But the 4K transfer is really nice.
Like I said, I didn't think I could love it anymore, and then I got that, and I'm like, man, it's awesome.
Those many versions I upgraded to, I'm never gonna get rid of my VHSs.
Oh no,
I got a whole this is one of those movies I bought the most.
That whole shelf is filled with. I've got like all the Halloweens that came out on VHS still sealed, like in the wrapping.
Oh, damn, nice.
I had this movie on VHS. I bought it on DVD where it's the Ash with the little ashes running around, and I got the Screwhead edition. Then I got the Scream Factory Blu-ray, and now I need to get the 4K. So
I still have a sealed Halloween Betamax.
Nice.
I need to get. That's one thing I do need to get Evil Dead on Betamax if they have it out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Apologies for I keep slipping away. I have really bad allergies right now.
You and me both.
All good.
She groomed our dogs, and it's just like killed her. But the dogs look great.
So cheers and fears. Guys, hit us with what other characters you love in this movie.
You want to go ahead?
No, go for it.
Okay. So one character that hasn't been mentioned that I always think of as I just like his appearance. He doesn't have a huge role, but he's a good character, is Henry the Red. And I just love how like he's sort of similar to Ash at the beginning. He's kind of cocky. He thinks he's like, do you know who I am? Like he thinks he's the authority figure. And then Ash shows up and kind of
Mr. Fancy people.
Yeah, exactly. Puts him in his place and like tells him who's boss, sort of. Like Ash is clearly the dominant one in that relationship. And like he's like I said, he doesn't have a huge role or anything in the movie, but the interaction between those two characters works so well for me. And it's I always get a laugh from that character and his reaction.
Something I learned that I think you're gonna really appreciate because I just love this kind of thing. Like I love how the guy who played the two characters who hate each other in Night of the Living Dead are best friends. Were best friends when he was alive. In this one, Henry the Red and Arthur in real life became best friends. They are still best friends to this day, and they have a similar rivalry that they have in the movie. I guess they do drinking contests together, and they're constantly like, well, who's the best at this thing? So it makes me love the movie all the more.
But they became frenemies because the ending of the movie implies that happened.
Yeah. He says at the end that we're brothers, and they're still great friends to this day. That Shout Factory documentary was made only a few years ago, so I love that. It makes me love this movie even more.
Right.
But yeah, you're not lead. The only things you're leading is Jack and shit, and Jack left town.
I
love Henry the Red and his thing. They cut out the scene where Ash actually goes to ask him for help. I mean, it's kind of implied in the normal version that they just, sent somebody to ask for his help. But originally, there is a scene where Ash traveled to go get help from him. And I think you're right. I think they are very similar, like kind of cocky, but also Henry, like Ash, will do the right thing when put into that situation. Like he doesn't want to, he's reluctant to, especially like he's been at war with Arthur recently, but
it's kind of like our final girls. There's this idea that they have to be virgins and they can't do drugs. But, we've seen Laurie Strode toke on a joint. We know that the final girl on Friday the 13th has had sex. They're not as pure as the idea of what a final girl is supposed to be. And I think it's with our final guys. We know they're not as big of assholes as that. We know that at the core of it, they are heroic, like genuinely heroic.
Right.
They have a tough outer shell.
Yeah, they got some bravado in there, but they still want to do what's right at the end.
And I think we want to believe that about most people, whether they're the perfectly good girl who we don't think is going to make it. We want to believe that she's got this inner strength that's going to come out when she needs it, and that lovable asshole in our group of friends, we want to believe that when push comes to shove, that they're going to be okay.
I also want to point out, I think the true villain of this movie is King Arthur's barber.
Oh God, the mullets in this are so tragic. They're so tragic. Even poor Bridget Fonda, her hair looks like it was chopped that day. Like someone, you know who it was? It was the guy from Child's Play 3. The guy who was also in Hellraiser. Yeah, bald.
Oh,
I can't wait till we did the Child's Play franchise.
Also in Halloween H2O, what's his name? Barber.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Josh Hartnett.
Yes. So funny.
Speaking
I love that you mentioned Henry the Red. Great pick.
Speaking of Arthur, that was actually my pick. So I'm thankful Tucker didn't
take that one. You kind of look like Arthur.
Is that a compliment?
I don't have the cut.
They really do. They kind of look like Arthur and Henry the Red.
Maybe they are.
Maybe we are. We have drinking contests.
You have that kind of. I mean, I know you're Canadian, but you have that old school British, rugged, heroic face, dude.
We have the beards. I mean,
it's the beards. That's why I can never be a hero.
Even though I think when I turn a little bit one way or the other, I think
it's something about being Canadian just makes you a little bit tougher.
Yeah, it's just their rugged version.
Probably
they can
the
survive
winter.
outside and make more flannel.
I swear to God, we love Canada so much.
We do. I go up there to
Please don't be
wrestle all the
offended.
time.
No, we're not offended at all.
It's all in love.
We're actually up in there. Are you guys again? I think you've told me this once.
Saskatchewan.
The funny thing is I moved here to America from Suffolk in England. And I worked really, really hard to have an American accent. But sometimes the British slips through. And my Canadian friends are like, are you Canadian? So I don't know. I think we got like a kinship going on, dudes.
I wrestle all over the BC a lot, but then I've even made it all the way up to like Edmonton and stuff too.
Oh yeah.
I got family in BC and in Calgary. Well,
yeah.
All over Alberta actually.
I have family in Washington.
Yeah, we're neighbors because we're in Washington.
Well, one of these days our paths might cross then, and we'll have a
drink. You know what our favorite Canadian beer is?
What's that?
Tell 'em.
Sneaky Weasel.
Sneaky Weasel.
Okay.
They almost sponsored Horror Addicts. They were actually going to, because they had to say on their website, we're like, are you like doing this like unique thing in your life? It could have been anything, basically. Pitch why we should sponsor you, and we will. And I told them all about my YouTube channel and how I love Sneaky Weasel and stuff, and they're like, oh, cool. But then they're like, but we're not able to like send it to you internationally. Sorry.
And to our fellow Americans, even beers like Kokanee are better in Canada because they have a higher alcohol content.
Yep, that's right.
What are alcohol
Anyway, I digress. Hit us with that your favorite characters from the movie.
Sorry, Arthur. My main reason that I like Arthur is his character development throughout the movie. So he sees some random guy that just basically, in the, what is it? At the beginning of the second one, he saves everybody from a deadite. I don't think that's the case in Army of Darkness, but they see Ash and they're just like, who's the Merlin looking guy?
He's played by something Abercrombie.
Oh yeah, Abercrombie. That's a good
Which apparently that guy in real life, he was really like confused by some of the weird stuff, but he had a great sense of humor. So.
But so the guy that's basically a shoe for Merlin in this movie says, yeah, he's the chosen one. And then Arthur's just like, execute him. He's probably one of Henry the Red's men, and then wants him executed. Then Ash has this badass moment where he fights himself out of the pit. And then King Arthur's just says, okay, now you have to fight me.
Yeah.
But he says, now you have to fight me. And then Ash immediately asserts dominance. And then from there in the movie, he decides to fight with Ash, go along with Ash, shows Ash respect, and in the end, become friends with Henry the Red. So I like this character development through then, especially he has the noble act of like always trying to protect the book. Like he gets shot, I think, once or twice with an arrow, and his priorities are still on the book as opposed to, it seems like he's a selfish person or very self-centered, but from the ending scenes, he was more focused on the book because he knew if the books fell into the hands of evil Ash, then pretty much that'd be the end of the world. So yeah, he turned into a selfless character, which I was interested with his character arc, and I don't think a lot of people talk about that.
He says that multiple times in the climax, like protect the book at all costs. At one point they go to leave to help him, he's like, no, you get back there and protect the book. Like it's more important than his own life, and I think that does make him really heroic. I just think he's really funny too. I love in the beginning, not too long after Ash escapes the gory hole, which that's what I call it, he shoots the guy with the arrow who tries to run away. He's just like it's awesome. Love it.
But even like him being an asshole in the beginning, Arthur, he's very mistrusting. He's not amused by Ash's antics at all. I mean, until the boomstick comes out, he does not yield to Ash's braggart. He says, "Are everybody in the future a loudmouth braggart?" And he's like, "No, just me." But I think even then, his people were always like important to him. Like the book and saving the kingdom was always like a righteous thing. He was just on the wrong path to do so. And I think after enough evidence, he joined onto the right way to get about that. I think he always did care about them. He was just kind of going about the wrong way.
Really nice to see Joseph Hall in the chat. He says Ash in the first Evil Dead was a huge dork who couldn't fight against a 2x4 who became a hero. Absolutely. Also, I see you have a great question in there, James. I'm going to say that for the end. If you guys have any questions, we're going to do a big Q&A at the end of the stream. Some characters we haven't talked about that I really love. I love that Bridget Fonda is in this movie because at the time she had kind of made a name for herself. You know, she was somebody that people knew. And she contacted Sam Raimi and she's like, I don't care what it is. I love your movies. I want to be involved. And they're like, you can be Linda. I mean, she's different in every movie. It's not a big part. Are you sure? And she's like, yes, I will be Linda. That makes me so happy.
Right.
I think she's a great Linda. I also love that Angela Featherstone. I remember when I finally saw Wedding Singer, which came out after this, I was like, oh my gosh, it's the girl from the end of Army of Darkness.
Right.
I guess in her career at the time, she couldn't even afford a decent meal. And she did this on Christmas Eve. And it's really cool to like have this time capsule of her at that time. You mentioned Bill Moseley. I think that's great. He also contacted Sam Raimi, which is like, I love your movies. I want to be involved. I love that people have contacted Sam Raimi and he found a place for them in his film. The guy who plays the blacksmith is an old college friend of his. And he showed up, Tim, and he's like, I will shave my entire body. Look, I'm still ripped. And he's like, you're the blacksmith, buddy. He doesn't forget his people. You know, he's an A-list director now. He makes big movies, and yet he always finds a place for Bruce Campbell. Like, he doesn't forget where he came from. I love that. I also love Beth Davis, who, by the way, Evil Dead Rise, every single character in there is named after an actor who previously appeared in the franchise. Beth is our main final girl. She's named after Beth Davis. And they loved her right away. She is so good in this movie. She has such a small part as Sheila, but she's so sincere.
But even she has like a great story arc where her brother died, and she's, for whatever reason, maybe just because he looks so different that he's drawn her attention. But Bruce, she hates Ash. She like hates him like right away. She somehow thinks he's the one who killed her brother, even though you'd think she'd be throwing rocks at Henry. But she just hears that her brother died at one of Henry's men, and she just takes it out on Ash. And he's a total dick to her when she does try to like swallow her pride and apologize to him. But then, you know, there's like that smoldering swoon, like you assault me, I assault you back. Now we're kind of in love.
And sibling relationships are a big part of this franchise. Ash and Cheryl, there's the siblings in the remake, the siblings in Evil Dead Rise. So that's kind of cool that she had, you know, that relationship with her brother. But she's so good in this. If you watch her in this movie, she is way too good for this little part that should just be a love interest. Studios want you to have different variations to offer them. They want to have a choice. So they also had, God damn it, I'm drawing a total blank. Another actress, damn it, you know, I'm gonna have to look it up. They had another actress that they sent to Dina De Laurentiis for Sheila, who was a little bustier. And that's who he wanted. He just wanted some eye candy for the movie. Right. And they were like, did you not see Annabeth? She's so good. Please choose Annabeth. And he's like, no. She's not going to be it. So they really had to truss her up, you know, push everything she had up because that's what he wanted. Yeah. And she was able to get the role. God damn it, why can't I remember the name of the actress? Damn it, I'm going to find out really quick.
Annabeth did great.
Annabeth did really great. She's also Matilda, but right after this, she did Schindler's List. She's really, really talented. And I'm glad she stuck with acting because at one point when she's in the full makeup and she's having to do fight scenes, she was just like, this is too fucking hard. I don't know why I chose this for my career. It's really hard. But she's really good.
That scene where the demon comes and grabs her and picks her up and flies away with her. Like, it's just such out of I don't know if anybody's ever played Ghosts and Goblins, but it's like the opening scene of that game where you just sit the chick and the demon flies, grabs her, and they have to go chase after.
That's it. Tracy Lords was the other person they sent. So Tracy Lords, former porn star.
Yeah, former porn star.
Hourglass figure and everything that Dina De Laurentiis wanted. Right. But Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi just didn't think she fit this part. And it's strange because eventually she did end up playing like his wife in something.
She was in Crybaby, right?
I think it was in Johnny Depp. That they played husband and wife. I think she is in that movie. Another fun connection to this movie is you have Patricia Tallman, who fans of the genre will recognize her as the final girl in Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead. She's fantastic in that. Not only is she the witch in this movie, she's the Deadite at the end of the movie. And she plays a large number of the Deadites in the big climactic battle, including Evil Ash when he's just a skeleton. So she's really great in this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's incredible. Patricia Tallman, and then Bill Moseley, as you mentioned, is also in this. And Bill Moseley played Johnny in Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead, and she played the lead role.
Yeah. And nothing against Tracy Lords, and certainly nothing with anybody who's ever had any enhancements, because no shame there. But you're going for a medieval look. It wasn't common back then.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It was a common practice.
So what do you guys think about the Deadites in this movie? So the Deadites are a little bit different. We have more of a Living Dead type thing going on.
Yeah, there's a bit of a range.
Live skeletons. We've got skeletons who are playing instruments, skeletons that are fighting people. We do have some traditional Deadites.
Yeah, we do have a few for sure.
Yes. What I think is really fun about Deadites is they are kind of a combination of our zombies that we've seen in like the Romero films.
Yeah.
And like possession movies.
Exorcist.
They spew all the vile and horrible language that those characters spill. But the difference is we can't exorcise them. I guess a lot of people have been surprised by films in the past because they're like, why don't they just exorcise Linda? You can't do that in an Evil Dead movie. It does not work.
You have to exercise yourself. Like Ash managed to push, or at least push it back and take control of his body. That doesn't mean it wasn't somewhere in him.
Which it is. That's where we get Evil Ash.
Yeah, and it like literally grows out of him.
Which makes us wonder about
separates off.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that next week.
But yeah,
I never thought about that.
Not your technical possession movie, but not your technical zombie movie. Somewhere in between with its own flavor that I love. This one, like Henrietta and Cheryl from the first two, really stood out as great. Same thing with Evil Ed's look when he's eating hair and shit. Part two, but some of those more traditional Deadites aren't quite as impressive, I would say, in this one. But we have all these cool skeletons and flying demons and other kind of things.
Yeah,
the Evil Ash especially.
The demon that's doing all those flips in the gory hole.
Pit bitch.
Not Pit bitch. The other one.
The other one.
Yes.
Pit bitch flips back into the hole, but
there's one that's doing like cartwheels towards.
Yeah.
That she bitch.
She bitch.
She bitch. There you go.
She bitch and Pit bitch.
I thought she bitch was the
witch bitch.
Yes.
But originally that old witch was and that actress was really great that played her, but I can't remember her name right now. But they were gonna have a really more elaborate fight with the old lady when like that, and like they were gonna go out into this area with these pillars and stuff, and like they just decided they didn't have the money to go into that direction. They wanted to put it somewhere else. But they did decide, hey, we do still want that scene. You know, I love where he tells Arthur, no, it's a trick, get an axe. You know, and then she's like, starts fighting again. And it takes so many bullets for him. And especially when you're watching the new movies and like they just unload a gun onto a Deadite and they think that one blast is enough. No, Ash always had to like pump each Deadite with like 12 shots almost, like just finally kill it.
Or just completely dismember them.
Exactly. That's the point. That's what you're supposed to do. You're
exactly.
Cut them up, and they'll still technically be alive, but they just won't be much of a threat. Unless they're Evil Ash and they can just spring back to life and themselves.
Is there anything you guys want to say about the Deadites in this movie?
I think like it's the first time we really got a range of Deadites, and it's similar to like Ash versus Evil Dead in the series. There they really explored different Deadites and demons and the look of them and stuff. But it started with Army of Darkness, and it was nice to see that change of pace, I guess, and see a range of different Deadites. And some of them are more powerful than others, and it was like the skeletons were kind of just easy to destroy. You just kind of whack them and they fall apart, right?
Yeah.
And then there was some more powerful ones like Evil Ash, Bad Ash, whatever you want to call him. And I loved Bad Ash. I thought he was a badass. And like it was just something unique that we hadn't seen in the franchise up until this point. So I like that they did that.
I love the variety of it. That's what's good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say the variety, and like you get the Gulliver's Travel, you know, the little mini Ashes, and you know that whole scene where they're, you know, tying him down and, you know, swan diving into his mouth, and then, you know, then we eventually get the Evil Ash. But yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this movie was very ambitious, and it paid off. You know, those are pretty big risks. The whole movie was a big risk, but even with that could have come off lost a lot of people, and I feel like there's more champions of the decision that they made to expand this universe. You have a skeleton with a bagpipe, right, at one point in this movie. Yeah,
and
so
beards.
like
A couple Scottish
right?
ones.
Yeah, exactly. So they gave us so many different options or I guess they expanded what we thought of a Deadite, and I loved it. I'm glad that they did it.
Really quick, I want to thank Alex for this super chat. Thank you so much for your appreciation of the stream. He says, really enjoyed the stream, Gory. Hard to make it because of work. I've always loved this franchise. Me too, dude. Yep. And just to thank you, I try to get clips from the series. I didn't tonight, but you know what? I got some creepy old cartoons for you. So since Cheers for Fears are here tonight, let's do some drunk skellies.
I mean, the Deadites in this one are a little less foul-mouthed, but they're also in the past when, you know, all those slurs aren't really there, so they say stuff like Sally Forth instead of, you know, just more dirty stuff that more of the present-day ones would say. Yeah. And, of course, the skeletons have to make a bone.
I know it's an N-word, and I love how among horror fans, the N-word is a Nikto.
Yeah. Okay, don't say the
point.
Exactly, don't say Nikto.
Exactly. But yeah, then all the skeletons have to make bone jokes. But I love that. I love how cheesy it is. I don't care.
But yeah, as horrific as it goes with, you know, like at one point we have kind of a tree rape scene. We know what happens with Evil Ash and poor Sheila. Yeah. But for the most part, this is pretty PG-13. It's pretty tame. It's the one movie where the N-word is not something really, really disgusting and gross. It's fun. It's fun. The Deadites are fun.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part, they're good fun. I mean, the slave girls that are getting carried off there, probably not a whole lot of fun for them. But there was some boning going on with those skeletons.
I'm telling you, dude, if I wasn't an underage child at the time this movie was made, I would have loved to have been a slave girl.
Plus, you know, the skeletons, they're just bones. They don't have anything down there. Exactly. They're not packing. So.
Exactly.
They have bones.
Yep.
So I think my favorite part about the Deadites from this movie specifically is that it adds to the lore in the sense that the last two movies you get the cabin, which I'd imagine was for a very limited period of time, because you had who was the Deadite before that was played by Ted Raimi?
Henrietta.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we had Henrietta, and then the ones that got transformed in the cabin. That was it. But back in medieval times, you had 3 Books of the Dead, and we don't know how long that those Books of the Dead have been used or how long they've been ruling the earth. So you can kind of see all these different types of Deadites, and I guess more spells in the book, such as splitting ash, for instance, and having bad ash, and the skeletons, things like that. So it adds a little bit more and how powerful the Books of the Dead could be together. Mm-hmm. They aren't even necessarily used, but even their presence itself is causing havoc around the world. So it's just something that I really like to think about, and I really hope that they do something with the lore for that, because I think that's one of the more appealing things that can be used later on in the franchise for sure.
Yeah. You had me thinking that is how I would love to see an origins story of the Book of the Dead, and even leading up to Army of Darkness that time, how they ended up on those kind of were those tombstones, not tombstones,
they call them a cradle later on.
Cradle, yeah. So how they ended up there, I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, and why nobody else could grab it? It was just Ash,
right?
Yeah. Nobody else would even dare go near there
because nobody else
was
that
the chosen
stupid.
one.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Either that brave or that dumb or both.
I think the old man maybe possibly could have, but he knew that he just wouldn't survive the trek. He would get killed. He needed someone as badass as Ash, which he saw him do in the pit, with a chainsaw hand and flipping and using his belt to get out of the spikes and stuff.
He's super impressive to them because they've never seen anything like a chainsaw.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out his chemistry 101 book and is able to make bombs and shit. So I love when the old guy is holding the gunpowder up close to the candle. And he's like,
That's the candle away.
No.
So
Chemistry
funny.
101. Which he had in the back of his car.
I'm telling
you.
you.
He also had a Fangoria magazine in the back of his car.
The Fangoria magazine was his. The Chemistry 101 book probably belonged to Cheryl.
Linda.
Or Shelley.
Yeah. So one of them. He probably told Linda, we're going to go up to the cabin and study, each other.
Study.
But yeah, I love that. I love just so much cool stuff about this. Like I love how this one really opened up the world.
You want to have a lot of fun?
A lot of fun.
Do you guys want to have a speed round where we share our favorite quotes in the movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, hit me with those beautiful quotes.
Let me try something. I just bought something. I want to see if this works. Tell me if this works. If you guys hear anything. Did anything play? Damn.
I didn't hear anything. No.
Okay, I got to figure out how to get this thing to work. But it was just Ash saying groovy.
Iconic.
Yeah, I got the Stream Deck and I got some sound drops. I just don't know how to get it to play on here.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So I have
Depending
some
on what
Ash.
you're using, you might need to put monitor and output. That's what you have to do with Streamlabs. I don't know if that'll help.
So do what? Well, we could talk about it later. That's fine.
Well, I'll help you later.
Yeah.
All right, speed round. Cheers and fears.
Well, I mean, it's been said at least twice in the chat that I've seen. This is my boomstick. Of course, that one immediately comes to mind to start things off.
Yeah. What about good, bad? I'm the guy with the gun.
I am so glad they went with that one because it was almost.
I'm not that good.
I'm not that good. Yeah.
Yeah,
no. It makes sense, but it's just not like you don't put that.
Doesn't hit as hard.
You got something on your face? Just shove a little dirt on it.
Yeah.
I love how he looks too, like bad looks like, huh? Dirt hits.
I thought that was like your shoes untied.
Oh, there's
they're not. They don't have laces.
Yeah.
And he looks down regardless, like he knows what shoes untied.
I love when she's all like, "What about those sweet words you said when we were alone?" He's like, "Well, that's just what we call pillow talk, baby."
So awesome.
Or in the
Any
same
more?
sense. Well, in the same.
I will say the Klaatu Barada Nitko came from a movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still. So it's really cool that it's in this movie.
Yeah, it's an old sci-fi movie.
Another one is when he's fighting Sheila, I guess, on top of the castle grounds or whatever, and she's like, "You found me beautiful once," and then Ash just says, "Honey, you got real ugly."
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see if I can get this thing. I have so many. Yeah.
Shop S Smart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Classic.
I have so many drops that I can't get to work, and it sucks.
Sorry.
No, I was trying to see if I
wanted
can
to have
mess
some
with
clips for tonight too, but with my whole allergy thing, my day got kind of eaten up.
Yeah.
What about you, Danny?
Well, come get some. Or actually, who wants some? Who wants a little?
You?
The guy's like,
that
no.
guy's like, what?
The Fu Manchu's like, no, and he's like, then the other guy like nudges him and he shoves the other guy.
Yeah.
I mentioned this earlier, but give me some sugar, baby.
Give me some sugar, honey. Yeah.
And hail to the king, baby.
Hail to
the king. The
Jack.
Oh, you're in charge of Jack.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah.
And your goody little two shoes.
I don't know how many people here used to play the Duke Nukem video game.
Oh,
he
yeah.
stole pretty much most of those quotes from Ash.
He really did.
He took some from Rowdy Piper too, but mostly from Ash. And like, I'd have to tell that to people. Like, we'd be playing that game, and he'd be like, "Hail to the king, baby!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's from Army of Darkness." And, like, huh? And we're putting that in now. Stop this game.
You mentioned earlier, like, "Yo, she bitch."
Yeah.
Like, there's so many great ones. He's just so damn cocky. Some of the things he says in this, I don't even like. What's the screwhead? I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah.
Want some hot chocolate?
Oh, what's that part where he's like, your primitive brain wouldn't understand?
Oh yeah.
Molecules and
you know he doesn't understand chemistry.
No.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it so much.
What does the old guy call him? A foolish dung eater?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
You foolish dung eater.
And he calls him a spinach beard.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Good
that's
stuff,
like
guys.
this movie is the entire reason why we even decided to do on our last live stream that we did. We ranked all of famous Ash one-liners on a tier list, and
I really loved that. I watched that. I really loved it.
I think all of them except maybe one that we chose from Army of Darkness were either in A tier or S tier. And
yeah, like they were all top notch.
Yeah, and that's just like because there's so many of them, and that was kind of that's what inspired us to even do the live stream in the first place. Is this movie? So there's just so many quotes, and we probably didn't even cover half of them yet. But
so I gave you guys an easy assignment with picking your favorite quotes because with this movie it's easy. But what is it? How do you describe Army of Darkness to somebody who's never freaking seen it? What is it? Is it a horror movie? Is it a medieval movie? What is it?
It's a horror comedy that leans more comedy, but it's more than that. Even like I don't even know. That's a very hard question to answer.
Horror comedy. Fantasy.
Comedy, horror, adventure, fantasy, even
science fiction. There's time travel.
A little bit,
a little bit.
More of a fantasy way, like with portals, not science. But
it's
comedy, horror, fantasy, adventure.
I'll kind of start with this one. I feel like it absolutely is an adventure in the style of like, pardon me. You have like a burp like stuck in your throat. That's where I'm at right now.
Oh yeah,
so ladylike. But it's got that adventure aspect of like our old old school Jason and the Argonauts type movies. It's got that Monty Python and the Holy Grail type humor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And yet it's got this kind of like, gore and sensibility of horror films. So you mush all that together in a blender and you get Army of Darkness. You get adventure, you get comedy, and you get horror.
Well, a lot of like, especially kids movies will like, hey, this kid is like having a very mundane life, but now he's thrust into some sort of fantasy adventure that takes him out of that completely. And I liked that as a kid, but I loved it as a more of an adult setting. And that's exactly what this movie gave me as a 9-year-old. Like, it did that, but it was just way more badass and cool because I loved horror movies. But most of my, like, tell horror movie, like, plots to kids that I went to school with, and they're like, yeah, our parents don't let us watch these things.
Like, if you took that part from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where they see the rabbits that eat people, that part where it gets very horrific, and you expanded that one part into an entire movie, that's Army of Darkness.
Yeah. So that's better because I was gonna say, like, I was trying to think of a medieval like comedy movie, and I was gonna say Robin Hood Men in Tights meets Night of the Living Dead. Like if they had a baby,
that's good too. That's really good.
But Monty Python, because it predates this movie, obviously is I think a better description, but something to that effect, right? Where it's kind of a medieval comedy meets Night of the Living Dead. They had a baby. That's Army of Darkness, and
I love it.
Well, it's kind of like the friendship test. Like, I'm going to put on this movie. You're going to watch it, and we're going to be friends, or we're not.
Right? Or you're going to
movie. That's all I need to tell you.
This is one of those kind of test movies where you show it to somebody that you're dating or who's a new friend, and if they like it, it's going to work out, and if they don't, well, you forget their number.
Yeah, I ain't calling you to hang out no more.
In fact, early on in our relationship, I just bought this shirt from Hastings because I love this movie. But then he loved it too, and I gave it to him. So, he's all right.
Apparently, like the guy she dated and stuff and hung out with didn't really care for horror movies.
I could not find a guy who liked horror movies. I swear the dating pool is slim around here.
Girls I used to date before you like faked it, but I would never hang out with anybody who didn't like horror movies.
They probably faked more than that. Just saying.
But no, most of my friends loved horror movies. We'd always just go rent them. But granted, it was kind of cool once we got into like closer up to high school, where my friends all like kind of actually started watching horror movies with me. Because in grade school, like I said, I was 9 when I saw this. I would go try and talk about this movie to kids at school, and they're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, dude.
It's a hard one to kind of tell people, but
It is.
I know people who refer to Ash as Boomstick, and it's because of this movie. It's because of his quotes in this movie.
Yeah.
I actually did meet somebody that I dated for a while, and he would always refer to the comedic aspects and Ash and his boomstick. And he'd never even seen Evil Dead. You know, he'd be like, "Oh, you know, Evil Dead." I'm like, that doesn't happen in the Evil Dead, my dude. But you know, this movie made such an impression. I think this is the movie that cements him as a horror icon. I think he was well on his way with Evil Dead 2, but this is the movie that made him Ashley J. Williams a household name amongst horror fans.
Right.
Yeah, like even Death Battle, like if you ever seen that channel, like Wiz and Boomstick's just they took the name.
Well, I remember I had friends growing up that didn't like horror movies, and but we would play Halo and Call of Duty, and they all called the shotgun the boomstick. Like they knew the boomstick, they knew that kind of pop culture reference. They just weren't fans. They probably hadn't seen this movie.
Even if you don't like horror movies, there's a good chance you're going to enjoy this one.
Well, even like I said, Duke Nukem stole those lines. When you get the shotgun in Duke Nukem, he's like, "Ooh, my boomstick." But it's because he stole it from this.
So I want to cover some stuff that we have kind of covered a little bit. Let's talk about music and special effects and stunts.
Danny fucking Elfman.
It's really interesting, the music in this. So Joseph De Luca does most of the score, which I think is gorgeous. It's so interesting that this franchise has had a different theme with each movie, because this is not the thing that we have with part 2. The March of the Deadites, though, is performed by Danny Elfman before he became a household name with movies like Batman.
I mean, nothing's ever probably going to top Tales from the Crypt for me, for Danny Elfman, but he's done so much other great stuff that I love. But I recognize, even as a kid, I started recognizing that name at the end of a lot of movies that I liked and shows that I liked. Oh, Danny Elfman.
But I feel like you can play a snippet of this music for a horror fan, and they're going to be like, Army of Darkness. Like right away. It's so recognizable, and it so fits the time period and the vibe that they're trying to create with this movie.
Oh, yeah. It takes you back to that time for sure.
Absolutely.
And like I said, you had like Deadites playing bagpipes and stuff.
Yeah.
I love that so much. When he's got like the little pan flute.
I don't know how a skeleton can blow, but whatever.
Right.
I don't know.
Ask questions.
That's another quote in this. It's like, first you want to kiss, or first you want to kill me, then you want to kiss me.
Right.
Another one. He spits the apple chunk out.
Yes.
How to look like an asshole eating an apple on camera.
This is one of those movies that you can be an annoying person and kind of like quote the whole way through.
And not to spoil it, but as you said, he eats an apple as a Foley artist.
Yes, he does. So when you hear the sound of crunching, and you're going to hear it, I want you to know it's Bruce Campbell eating an apple.
Viciously.
Yes, voraciously.
Yes.
Let's talk about the special effects and stunts. So Bruce Campbell says when he watches this movie, he feels exhausted.
Because he remembers all
he
the
says he can't understand the Hollywood types that party after work, because when he finally got out of makeup, he went home and he went to bed. And then he got up the next day to work some more.
Yeah, he was very straight edge when he filmed this. Like that was his lifestyle at the time. And he said he had to be. He's like, I didn't have any energy to put alcohol or anything in my body. I couldn't go out dancing or anything. I went home and I passed out. Because you worked a 14-hour day with Raimi. Like, but that's also 2 or 3 hours in makeup, especially when he was Bad Ash. That's an hour of taking off the makeup. So that's like all his day right there.
So for our younger audiences, it might be kind of hard to imagine, even Cheers to Fears, before CGI existed. Like it used to be kind of a magic trick. You'd watch a movie like The Prowler and you're like, how the fuck did they do that? There was a handful of tools. There was animatronics. There was claymation. There was good special effects and squibs and stuff. We did not have computer animation, so it was always a magic trick. It was always like dazzling to see something and wonder, how did they do that? And this movie hit right before CGI hit with Terminator 2 and Jurassic Park, which I think are the 2 movies that changed the game forever. And now, even when a movie is all practical, I think a lot of times we're like, well, they probably did it with computers, right?
Well, they would have touched it up, right? And made it look basically perfect.
Yeah, and some movies do that beautifully. One that comes to mind for me is Blade 2, which is a gorgeous amalgamation of practical effects and CGI.
Yeah.
But this is before that. And so even with its warts and all, you know, you have that part where the little ashes jump into Ash's mouth. And you can tell it was done against a blue screen. It may not look perfect. But
it added to the charm.
Exactly. It adds to the charm. It adds to this kind of homemade feel of this movie. This is a studio movie, but it feels so intimate.
Yeah, it's one of the last movies to really give a good. I think it's a great movie to give a send off onto all that type of movie making that had relied on blue screen effects and stop motion. A lot of puppetry and makeup still can be done nowadays, but they don't really do the blue screen and they don't do the stop motion as much as they used to. That almost died off for a while because of Jurassic Park. Sometimes it has come back just as cult classic reasons, like especially Mad World recently, right? With the stop motion.
God?
Yeah, Mad
God.
God. That's right. Yeah. That was great. And that guy was actually kind of fired from
He
Jurassic
was,
Park. He was doing the stop motion for Jurassic Park.
Initially, Jurassic Park was going to be done with stop motion.
Yeah.
And then the people who did the CGI effects were like, did you know we can do this with computers and it's going to look 1,000 times better?
If you go watch the movies that made us, you'll find out it was his understudy, who kind of slid the CGI into Spielberg's eyes, because he was doing that. Kind of stole it from him. He was still paid for his work, but it's kind of a great, beautiful movie to send off that last generation. It was kind of the cutoff, like you said, because right after this was Terminator and Jurassic Park. And
there's so much talent in this movie. So K&B is one of my favorite studios. I am a big fan of Greg Nicotero, who modern audiences probably are most familiar with because of The Walking Dead.
Right.
But this is one they had only done the Tales from the Dark Side movie. They hadn't done that much. So this was an easy starting off point for them. That was Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger. And they also had the Alterarian, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, who did the makeup effects on Evil Ash and Evil Sheila.
Oh, they look great, especially Ash.
So a lot of people worked on this. And like Mav said earlier, there's so many different techniques used in this film.
My favorite band is Gwar. And the one thing I loved always about Bad Ash, because I learned about Gwar shortly after this movie because of Beavis and Butthead. Very shortly, but I always thought when I would see Odorous, and it would remind me a lot about Bad Ash. They're very
immediately what I thought of when I saw
especially
Bad Ash too.
Round hamburger, because he got shot in the face with a fucking boomstick. That's why I love that fucking ground up hamburger face that he has. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for an effect where you feel like you can touch it, even something that might look goofy to modern audiences, like the Deadeye that carries off Sheila with the big bat wings. You still can see the texture. It looks like something that you can imagine how it smells, how it feels.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I know that Pit Bitch has a kind of a goofy mask in a sense, but I still love it. I love that can reach out and grab me, and that is kind of, in a sense, its own scariness. Even if I knew it was a guy in a costume, if they jumped out at me like that and I wasn't expecting it, I'd fucking piss myself. Probably.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I would prefer I don't think the effects are bad in this movie, but I even prefer bad practical over bad CGI.
100%.
Absolutely. Bad practical over bad CGI.
And I always prefer good practical over good CGI. If you can do it practically, I love it. You rather do it that way.
I feel like the difference is when you look at maybe something that is practical and maybe hasn't aged well. You look at something like the little ashes jumping into Ash's mouth. And some of the compositing you can tell it's done with a blue screen.
Yeah.
Right,
but you also know when you're looking at that was so hard for them to do.
Absolutely.
And there's some incredible effects. The little ashes jumping out of those chips of mirror. It still looks incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so hard to do. Whereas when you look at bad CGI, you watch Sharkula, you watch Virus Shark, they put zero effort into that.
It's a shark off camera, and it's nowhere near anybody. That's not even a threat. But I love how, speaking of the mirror thing, I love how in Evil Dead they had the water effect in the mirror. That looks so good. I love in Evil Dead 2 where he reaches out and we just cut up our girlfriend and stuff. And it's so cool. And in this one, they finally they jump out of the shattered mirror and then they torture the hell out of him, and he tries to step on them and boiling water into his gut because
you want some hot chocolate.
That's a great quote. and like he's singing London Bridge, and then My Fair Lady, just love the little high pitched voices.
Is there anything we haven't covered with like the effects or the music that you guys want to talk about?
How about the Deadites themselves? So the Deadites effects, like obviously they still look great as they have since the first movie, but especially in the third movie, they're doing flips and everything, and probably all that makeup too, and nothing's fallen off. They're making it work. So it's just something that I kind of wanted to shout out.
Yeah,
especially having to do all this stunt coordination with that makeup on, probably.
Yes.
Bill Moseley says when he was in makeup for the captain, he can't see out of the eye where he's got the contact in that makes it all white. Yeah. And with the eye with the eye patch, he has a pinhole and he's riding a horse. I love Sam Raimi. I love this franchise. I think I would do just about anything, but I would be too scared to do that.
He's not only riding a horse, but he's pulling another horse with the prop skeleton, as I mentioned earlier, and that one gets the lines.
Right.
That's basically a stunt in itself.
Oh, yeah.
But
absolutely.
The first two movies really relied on Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi doing a lot of the stunts because they know that, Sam Raimi knows he can make them do either like what he wants. This one, they actually did get stunt people. I mean, there's a whole lot of stunt people, but there's also Bruce does his own stunts for the most part. And it's just great, though. They have this whole army of stunt work that you didn't really get to see in the first two movies.
Right.
By the way, look for when you see Evil Dead Rise, look for Henrietta's Pizza.
Yeah. There's a Henrietta's Pizza in that, so that's pretty rad. You'll also see other things. Just check.
There's a lot of Easter eggs.
I was gonna say I heard there's quite a few Easter eggs.
Some of them are super subtle.
Yeah. So what about?
We're also in this series of what we love about, and this is such an easy series to do because I genuinely love every movie in this franchise. I think every movie in this franchise is at least an A. We're gonna be doing Evil Dead Rise as well.
Yeah, we'll finish that. We'll do a very spoiler-free one tomorrow on Horror Addicts about it.
Oh, yeah.
Saw it yesterday. But then we'll do a more in-depth what we love, everything about it here in a couple of weeks. But we've got to do Evil Dead 2013 first, right?
All right, guys, before I check in with the chat, I know you guys love this movie, and I'm sure there are things about this movie I have not touched on. What else do you guys want to say about this movie?
Man, I feel like we've covered so much. I mean, I can't sell enough how much I think it's a appreciation for the work that goes into stop motion or claymation, and the fact that they incorporated that into this movie. I love like shows like Robot Chicken, anything that has stop motion in it. I just absolutely love it. I admire how hard that is to do a shot, then just move the part just the arm just an inch and then an inch and then so they as much as they went for it with this movie, I know that the production of it was pretty intense, but I'm just happy that it paid off, it works. So I feel like we've covered everything. Unless Cheers to Fears, you guys got anything that we didn't cover that you love about this movie?
Oh man, I'm really trying to think, but I'm shooting a blank right now.
I mean, the only thing that I could think of that we haven't given it praise for, and I guess this is a shameless plug, but it makes for a great drinking game, and that's like most horror comedies. And we did make a drinking game for it on our channel, and it is genuinely just a fun one because you don't need to pay super close attention to it to understand what's going on.
Yeah,
and
you could be wasted and still play the game
and enjoy the hell out of it because of the way that it's made and just the way that it looks. And just the drinking game for it works extremely well. I just want to say that.
Gonna play your game, but then I was like, well, I don't want to be wasted before the stream. I watched it twice today. I watched the theatrical and the director's cut, and I was like,
I want to watch the international cut.
I think we might play your game with the international cut here, just because when we're done streaming.
I really enjoy your drinking games. What's
the premise behind the Army of Darkness drinking game? Will that ruin it if you say it now, or?
Oh well, there's just no, not really. There's 10 rules that we made for it, and it's just like whenever this happens, you take a drink, and
okay.
I do want to warn you though, if you do play it, it's literally the hardest drinking game for the Evil Dead franchise. So I think it has the most drinks for it.
Nice.
With the exception,
have you guys ever just been floored by one of your drinking games?
Oh god, yeah.
So there's a few instances, like there's some things we haven't posted on the channel that's been absolutely awful. So probably the worst one is
make a Patreon and show them that.
Yeah.
I'll sign up.
Yeah, show us your drunk bloopers or rules you regret that you made for your games that like you had to take out or something. Like, no.
Tucker made a drinking game for it. You know, like the 10-hour or not 10, like the 3-hour like TV series,
mini-series or whatever.
The mini-series. And one of the rules was drink whenever somebody says it. You know, like the 10th most common word in the human language.
And I knew that was going to be rough. That's why I chose it.
Yeah. Nobody had anything going on.
I mean,
oh boy.
Another one that comes to mind, and this is actually the reason. I don't know if you've seen enough of our videos. Sometimes we talk about a mercy rule. And this movie is the reason for that. It was the nun from the Conjuring universe when we were doing that franchise. We decided to make it a rule whenever you see a crucifix. Oh man, that was a dangerous rule.
Yeah.
So we got about 5 minutes into that movie, and there's graveyards full of crucifixes.
If you guys ever do a live show where you go to play a drinking game live, I kind of want to join one.
Like a watch along or something?
Yes, like a watch along where you play a drinking game.
We've done a couple live watch alongs, and we would love to have you on for a live one. We've done
me in mind because I would love that.
Yeah, for sure. We've done Night of the Living Dead and House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah,
we got to try and do public domain stuff just for copyright reasons.
Right.
I'd also love to have you guys on maybe for a Jackbox night, and we could just make it.
I love Jackbox.
Yeah, I love drinking games. So, you know, I think my friend Jay from Blood Bath and Beyond, he's like,
oh yeah,
you're the only person I know who gets as drunk as I do during stream. So, you know, that's my pitch. You invite me.
I've gotten too drunk before on a stream.
Oh, we've been there.
Yeah.
I was also
honey, there was one stream we did that I had to take down because I got so drunk that I was dared to wax off my eyebrow, and I did it.
Oh, nice.
Damn.
There's been one stream we had to take, well, at least cut short.
Cut a little bit.
Just because we went a little bit too long. And long story short, there was puking happening off screen.
Oh, no.
And you could hear it. So, yeah, we took that down because we made a huge mistake.
I've been there. I used to be an online English teacher for kids in China. Oh, yeah. And there was one point where I had a flu bug. It wasn't because I was drinking. I just was really, really sick. And I'm asking the kid, okay, you know, recite this sentence for me. And then I have to like go over here, and you can hear me audibly puking. Yeah, let's try that one more time.
Yeah, sorry, it was just a little bit bad, sweetie.
Still get your Frozen sticker, Elsa.
All right, so the biggest reason I do these streams is because I have so much love for the films in this franchise. And I know for some people, especially this movie, it's kind of a hard one. You know, the first movie is kind of a straight up horror. This is more comedy. And some people just don't get it. And that's why we do these streams. So maybe if you don't get it, but you want to be part of the crowd that loves it or at least appreciates it, you can see why we love it. So think a minute on how you would pitch this to somebody who's like, I've never seen it, I'm interested, or I saw it, but I don't get it. How are you going to pitch it to them? But while you think about that, I'm going to check in with the chat and address some of the questions and comments that they've had throughout the stream. So Wicked Bear says the different Deadites were great to see in Army of Darkness. Love the look of them all. I love that too. I love just the cheesiness, like when Evil Ash's head goes spinning and his eyeballs go spinning. So good.
And then like blows his top literally.
So James says Evil Dead OG versus the 2013 remake. Which do you prefer? That's for everybody.
It's the OG for me, but I love the remake. I think it's overall, like nowadays, if I really wanted, like someone's like, oh, show me a really good scary movie, I would show them over the OG. I don't think a lot of people be super scared now by the OG. I think it is more of a horror than like the two movies that came after it, but its effects and just some of that stuff won't scare a lot of modern audiences. I don't think. Right. I love it. I think it's a great movie. And I think most of the effects for me still hold up, but I would say the new one is scarier. I still love the other movie a little more. It's more of a fun trip for me. And even though those characters don't maybe stand out quite as much as they do in the new movie, I like them more. New movie, I didn't like those characters all that much, but it's still a great movie.
What do you bet, you guys? The original of The Evil Dead versus the 2013 remake?
I completely agree with you, Danny. I like the original one just slightly better, but like you said, the remake is fantastic as well, and it is more of a quote unquote horror movie, especially in the modern sense. But I just love the charm of the first one, and I'm a sucker for originality, so it's my pick goes to the original, but I do also love the 2013 remake. So I'm pretty much aligned with you.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a wrong answer. They're both.
No, there is.
There is not. And I'll split it here. I prefer the 2013 remake. I like my Deadites terrifying, and I like my movies gory, and it does both of those to a T nearly flawlessly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't argue with that. But I am an OG guy. I'm always kind of a root for the underdog kind of person, and the fact that knowing what they went through to just get this movie made in general, and the budget that they did have, and the fact that it was I mean, we wouldn't have 2013 if it wasn't for the original. I'm always partial to the original. Nothing against 2013. I freaking love that movie. I love all of these movies, like even to rank them, like it's not that, it's kind of like how they're all good, right? I would put any one of them on and be happy watching them, and slightly terrified at the same time, but yeah, for me it's the original for sure.
I think for me I think if I was talking to a film student and they're making their first movie, I'm like, you need to watch The Evil Dead. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to show you what you can accomplish by just rubbing two sticks together, just with nothing. But for your average horror movie fan, I'm actually going to have to go with Mav on this one and say the remake. I think that's the hardest assignment. I can't imagine what Fede Alvarez experienced when he's like, you get the Evil Dead remake. And it's like, yay, but also, oh shit. Yeah. That's the hardest assignment ever. He found a way to look at those visuals and still create something that felt surreal, that looks like the scariest woods I've ever not experienced. Yeah. And what he did with that movie is something I actually think has not happened in any of the other movies. I love Sam Raimi's effects and jokes and scares, but something that's always been a little lacking is the characters don't have a lot of heart. Where you watch that Evil Dead remake, and I felt really strongly for that brother-sister relationship, how he felt he let her down, and he was going to do anything to help her. And that one really stirs me in that heart place in a way the other Evil Dead movies don't. He found a way to do something a little different. Maybe he thought, I can't do comedy as well as him. I can't do scares as well as him. But here's something I can add to this universe. And he did it really well. He put Jane Levy through hell, just like Sam put Bruce through hell. And I firmly believe that the Evil Dead remake did something impossible. It made one of the scariest movies of all time. It's really hard to do for a remake. The assignment was hard. If Sam Raimi had failed with the Evil Dead, people would have just forgotten about it. But the Evil Dead is so loved and so cherished. That was a difficult assignment. And the fact that Fede Alvarez rose to that is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Very good point.
I've got a question for you, Gory. Unless this jeopardizes your future live streams, was 2013 scarier than this Evil Dead Rise?
I told you a little bit about this. When I was a child, there was 3 movies I was forbidden from watching. My parents were big movie fans. We had a massive VHS collection. I was forbidden from watching Dawn of the Dead, The Evil Dead, and The Exorcist. And the last I saw of those 3 when I was 13 years old was The Evil Dead. And maybe because I'd already seen The Exorcist and Dawn of the Dead and so many other horror movies, I used to always have this pillow that I would hide my face behind. I was the biggest baby. And when I saw The Evil Dead, I didn't get that it was scary. Even in the early 90s, I thought the scares were a little bit comical. I was like, I don't need this pillow anymore. So maybe it's because I evolved as a horror fan and I wasn't as easily scared. But that movie did not scare me in the slightest. I had a lot of fun. Whereas I saw that Evil Dead movie, and it's like I told you guys earlier, I feel like I was being punched in the face repeatedly with scares. I'm like, oh, there's no way they're going to top that. And then they punch me in the face again. Now this bitch is cutting off her arm. And the fact that they did it with so much love for the original franchise and so creatively too, none of it felt cheap. Yeah, I think it's really scary, especially for younger generations, like, who are just getting into horror now. That would be one of my challenges is watch that Evil Dead remake. If you think you can't be scared, that's one that I think is going to scare you.
You think it's scarier than Rise then?
I think it is scarier than Rise. Yeah. I think of this franchise, it's probably the scariest.
Papa Pizza.
I feel like all of these movies have a trophy in this. Like Evil Dead 2, I think is maybe the funniest. And I think the best story is an Army of Darkness. It's also the most quotable. Right. All of these movies are so valid and so cherished for me for different reasons. But when it comes to scaring the shit out of you, I'm going to say if that's what you want, check out that remake.
I want to answer this just anyways.
Yeah, no, it's for everybody. I do
think, in a sense, Rise might be a little scarier. Not so much with like the body horror, like because they're pretty even on like the violence. But the way that I felt like Paranormal Activity 2, in a sense, was a little creepier than the first one is because they bring your family into it.
Right.
That's the thing that would make it really hard for me to like fight back is if like it's my family that's deadites, or if it's just a cabin full of kind of some assholes and one of them's my sister. That part's the hard part. Like if it was my sister. The other part, it's like, I don't know. Once you go rabid, I'm gonna put you down. If it was my mom and my 3 siblings, that would, in a sense, scare me more because I would have more hesitation.
And I think Evil Dead and the Evil Dead 2 really touched upon that, especially with Annie in part 2, where her mom's singing to her. So I always feel like Ash is kind of a dick. Like, hey, the necklace worked on you with your girlfriend. Maybe let her finish the song and see if she can get her mom back. Maybe.
Once her neck, though, at that point her neck is stretched out. I don't know. Maybe she's too far gone. I don't know.
But as far as that heart, that like, what would you do if it's your family? I feel like the remake really did a great job. Like he felt like he really let down his sister because he couldn't deal with his mom dying.
Yeah, and there was
no matter what, not gonna let her down this time.
And there was the family angle with like David being the brother that wasn't there for so many years, and then he came back to support his addict sister who's trying to, get off drugs.
And they tricked us because he's dressed like Ash. So initially I was like, well, I hate you because you're not Ash.
Yeah, you're not Ash.
And then he ends up, he lets her be the hero, And
he didn't ever actually try to be Ash, and that's what I liked about it. It's
right.
I don't want to see an Aliens remake. I don't want to see Alien. I don't want to see another person other than Sigourney Weaver play Ripley. That's just how I am. I don't want to see anybody else play Ash. You can.
And I'm glad they didn't take that approach.
Yeah, you can have movies in those universe, and I will be on board with new stories and new characters. I just don't replace those iconic characters for me.
Yep, 100%.
I think with some characters like Spider-Man, you can have multiple different actors, and it's great. But when it comes to Ash, it's Bruce Campbell for me.
Yeah, I mean,
at this point, 100%.
Exactly.
And we have another question. If you guys are ready. If Evil Dead crossed with another franchise, which would you pick? So if we're going to have a crossover franchise.
Crossover.
I mean, it has the comics.
Yeah, I was going to say they did in the comics. It was what, Freddy and Jason, right?
Freddy and Jason. Marvel Zombies crossed over with it as well.
Yeah.
And what's her name? Vampirella crossed over with her.
So
X-Slash, right?
My first thought in my head was Leatherface, just chainsaw versus chainsaw. But it's like if he can handle like these supernatural demons, then he probably, you would think he'd have a pretty easy time with Leatherface.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Maybe Pinhead. Like
cool.
Hellraiser. The Necronomicon somehow summons Hellraiser. I think I would be down.
It's still bordering on that kind of Lovecraftian world. Too.
Right.
So getting into there would be cool.
So I think Pinhead, Ash versus Pinhead would that's where my head is at right now.
My thoughts were self-aware comedy Scream makes a lot of sense. And
yes,
what happens is the person, because it's already been established that Deadites can like kind of turn back into their original form and trick people. So that's who the killer is. They just like revert back. They're a Deadite, but they're killing everybody. And they can still wear the ghost face mask or whatever, but they kind of revert back and then nobody knows that it's them. Self-aware. I feel like Ash would be good in the comedy setting. So I feel like it would have a good chunk to offer because they're two horror-driven comedy movies, I guess. Comedy-driven horror movies, rather.
that's a really good answer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think I can top those. I did think of Leatherface, literally the same thing with the chainsaw. But you're right that it is too easy of a battle, I think. And Leatherface is kind of an idiot. So
What about like Cherry Darling, Planet Terror? I always thought that'd be cool.
That'd be sweet. That'd be sweet.
Chainsaw hand and a gun leg.
Yeah, machine gun leg.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, it's kind of funny because when they did Freddy versus Jason, they one of them I can't remember. They're like people who made the movie and like pitched it. There was a couple of guys that were working on it, and one of them's like, "Yeah, I really got ahead of myself because I started writing all these other movie ideas. I wanted to do like a big tournament. He was like, I wanted to have Michael Myers versus Pinhead. I wanted to have Chucky versus the Leprechaun and Ash versus Leatherface in a Texas Chainsaw death match.
Yeah,
and then like each
and
movie
Bill Moseley.
Yeah, and like he's like that's what we'd do. We'd like make a tournament and they end up and he was like it was always going to be Jason and Ash and we'd bring Freddy and some of the other ones back. But then they're like, yeah, you can't do any of that, dude. And he's like, oh. Well, could we possibly get Ash? Because that's where it wanted to end with. He wanted to end with Ash and Freddy and Jason. And Bruce Campbell said it like when I met him, he was like talking about this stuff, and he's like, "It was one of the quickest phone calls I ever had about a legit movie conversation." Because he's like, he pitched me Ash versus Freddy versus Jason, the movie, and my question was, well, how much control of the Ash character do me and Sam get? Well, we already have like a script idea, and he's like, no, click, because like if he's like not getting control of his character, he's not in, but. They did like keep contacting and eventually got the comics at least of Freddy vs. Jason Ash. So we did get the crossover a little bit, but it was kind of funny because everybody goes with Leatherface right away because the chainsaw.
That's not my pick. So here's my pick. I think Evil Dead meets Return of the Living Dead because we have these really comedic Living Dead characters in Return of the Living Dead. Like send more paramedics. There is really no idea of exorcism to bring them back. So I think it marries really well.
Oh yeah.
So my actual
and the tone is perfectly matched.
So my actual pick is like kind of out of there. It's a little bit of that tournament, but I just want a Leprechaun movie with Army of Darkness. I would love for Warwick Davis and Bruce Campbell to share the screen with their quips. Like they say things to each other. Like Ash is like, I don't want your gold or whatever, but for some reason, somehow he's got the gold. Maybe he swallowed the coin or something.
I love Leprechaun.
Like, I don't know. I just want that crossover where there are Deadites and like the Leprechaun uses his magic to control them a little bit or some shit. There's like skeletons. I don't know. But maybe they turn on him because even the book like turns on people like in a sense. But I don't know. I just kind of want Warwick Davis and Bruce Campbell to share the screen. So.
Yeah, their dialogue, there's so much opportunity there between their one-liners.
Ben Grimm says a Deathgasm Evil Dead crossover. I think that could be really cool.
Nice.
All right, so keep thinking about that pitch I told you about earlier. Really nice to see Ariel, my girl, in the chat. Here is Jason says, one of my fondest memories is when I worked with the Utah Shakespeare Festival. And one of the movie nights, the entire company watched Army of Darkness. Oh my God, 150 artists cheering and laughing. So this is one I'm sure you guys can agree. Every time I show it to a friend, even if they're not a horror fan, it gets a huge reaction. Like they're just like, "Holy shit! How have I never heard about this movie?" It's always a hit. Jason also said, Army of Darkness for me was one of the most fun I've ever experienced in a horror comedy. The audience in the theater was so much fun and my sides were hurting so bad by the end. And we got another question. Have y'all seen the Bollywood Evil Dead remake, Box Kesara? It's pretty much scene for scene with dancing. I kind of dug it. I did see Mahakal. I saw the Indian version of A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's pretty bad, but funny. I have not seen this. I need to check this out. Have you guys seen it?
Nor have I.
I haven't even heard of it, to be honest. But it sounds hilarious.
I'm not surprised. I mean, we've seen The Nightmare on Elm Street, and we've seen some other stuff from them. But
I watched Indonesia's Lady Terminator. That's a gem.
Fucking actually really good. I like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. So I need to check it out.
I need to see this. If you guys are having trouble finding a movie where you're like, holy shit, nobody has this, my biggest recommendation for where I find deep cuts, look up DVD Lady. For $12 you can buy pretty much any movie that's ever existed digitally, and they'll even make you a DVD and send it to you.
Wow,
that's way out of print.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
That's how I saw The Beheaded Man, which is this obscure movie that's only been released on TV in Pakistan about a cop whose head gets put on a criminal's body, and then the criminal takes off the head at night and goes around and does evil shit. It's a gem. The best part is when there's a song and dance number with Raphael from the Ninja Turtles and the Pink Panther. Can't recommend it enough.
It's kind of funny because they have mutual enemies. So he's trying to solve the case by day, but then the killer's just getting psycho revenge at night. But then in the very end, they're like, yeah, we'll work together to get our enemies.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look this up. Bach Kazara, I bet DVD Lady has it. So for $12 you can get pretty much anything.
Speaking of crossovers, though, it was slightly teased to us at the end of My Name is Bruce, where he's like, next time something horrible is terrorizing, don't call me. Call that Buffy girl.
Oh, Buffy and Ash together. Buffy is it's like
the dynamic duo.
How would they melt? Probably oil and water, though, right?
It would be hard because I don't think he knows how to talk to women in a way that sounds respectful.
Yeah.
And Buffy would not like that. He also likes a lot of weapons. Buffy hates guns. But I think it would be kind of a fun odd couple thing where in the end they respect each other and how each other's methods contribute to reaching their goal. Because even she has used a rocket launcher against the judge.
Yeah, something that's straight up demon.
Yeah.
She will kill.
Ben Grimm also says Evil Dead and Ghostbusters.
Oh shit,
that'd be cool too. Yeah,
that actually happened on your Hunter's Death Battle thing that you did. Remember?
That did.
Ash won.
All right, so here's the big challenge and kind of what this whole stream's about. So somebody who either has seen it, they didn't get it, or they haven't seen it. How are you going to pitch this movie to them? Hey, you got to see this. Why?
So it's only for someone who's seen it and didn't like it?
Or somebody who hasn't seen it and they're not sure if it's for them.
Well, I don't have anything super creative for. If you haven't seen it, I would just sit you down. I'd say, sit down, watch this, and thank me later. Yeah, and if they watched it and they didn't like it, I would say, okay, we're gonna watch Cheers to Fears drinking game video, and we're gonna watch it again, and then we'll see how you like it.
Right?
When you're drunk enough, you're gonna get it.
Exactly.
You don't even need to be drunk to get it.
We're going to make a game of this. We're going to get hammered and we're going to watch this movie again and you'll love it. So that's what I got. That's all I got. That's the best I could come up with.
Pretty good pitch if you ask me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't have anything super creative either. That was creative. Come on, give yourself more credit for that. But anyways, if it's somebody that hasn't seen it or doesn't know about the Evil Dead franchise or anything along those lines, I would just say if you want to put on a movie that you're just pretty much guaranteed to have a fun time with, and honestly, just sit down with a group of friends, turn this on. You guys are going to have a hell of a time. You're going to get a bunch of laughs. There's even some horror elements if you're into horror. But you don't have to be a horror fan to enjoy this movie. You're going to get something out of it. Doesn't matter what genre of movie you're into most. You're going to get something out of this movie, and you're just going to have a hell of a time. Just because of how fun it is. It doesn't take itself seriously in the best possible way. And Ash as a character, you're going to love him by the end of the movie because of just the stages he goes through. You get to see him go through the ringer. He gets put through so much shit and still comes out on top, kind of. And it's just a good time overall.
Yeah.
That's great.
The way that I would describe it is it's a horror, comedy, fantasy, medieval movie, And if you like any of those, but not the other ones, trust me, it's still worth it. Because as people have said, it doesn't really have that many horror elements. Like, it won't really throw you off in saying that. I'd say probably a 7-year-old can watch it and not really get that scared.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this movie a dozen times. I just noticed the boobs today.
And I'm pretty sure the 7-year-old won't.
But they're gonna notice that Bruce Campbell nipple porn.
Yeah.
He's got some good nipples.
That first part where he like kisses her, it looks like a romance cover. Like he's got the open white shirt,
like a ripped shirt and everything. I love that he basically fulfills the role of PG Souls in every movie he's in. Like if someone's gonna rip off their shirt, it's Bruce Campbell, and I love him for that.
Back to like quotes and stuff. He's like, "Were you shut the door? Were you born in a barn?" And then he whispers to himself, he's like, "Yeah, you probably were."
Probably was.
Yeah.
I feel like that had to have been an ad lib.
And
But
then
I
like,
think that's a great recommendation there, Alex. For me, I feel like it's the same way. I'm kind of gonna recommend this like a mixed drink. Like, well, do you like Monty Python? You like their style of humor? Do you have a love and affection for your old like sandal adventure films like Hercules and stuff? You know, then something like Jason and the Argonauts, and that's what you're gonna get here with that same kind of dark horror comedic sensibility that you get from anything Sam Raimi. So whether it's you've just seen, Spider-Man 2 or Doctor Strange, that dark sensibility he has, or Drag Me to Hell, a favorite of mine. I think this is one that you need to check out. Or if you just want to, if you're one of those people who says all horror movies are the same, which I hear that critique a lot and I hate that critique, watch this and tell me they're all the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. If they hadn't seen it, I would say, yeah, like, I don't know, especially if they're like a fan of classical movies like Jason and the Argonauts. Plus, also, I would say there's a little bit of a Three Stooges meets Hercules in here.
Absolutely.
Because that was a very epic tale for the Three Stooges to go on, where they had Cyclops.
Oh, and like someone just said in the chat, fans of Gulliver's Travels.
Exactly.
It's a lot of like if you're someone who grew up in like the 60s, this is gonna really play on a lot of your nostalgia. So you might think this is really freaking weird, but if you're somebody who grew up in the 60s, this is going to play on a lot of stuff you grew up on, whether you like horror or not.
Like I said, I feel like this movie was a good send-off to those type of effects that really made like famous in the 60s and 70s and stuff, the blue screens and all the giant creatures and little creatures and stuff that they would do with those. Yeah, I would tell people like that. If you're telling me you saw it and you didn't like it, like, yeah, okay, we all love the Babadook and Hereditary and all that elevated horror, but you know what? We're gonna have a fucking beer. We're gonna relax and enjoy ourselves.
And even for modern kids who were like kids in the 90s, like you love Power Rangers. Come on, those Power Rangers effects are hokey as hell, but you love it. Even when it's cheesy, it's got that charm. That's what this is.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
It's just got this really great like homemade feel to it, and even when it's a little cheesy, it's so charming.
Another quote and another reason why I love Ash and Bruce Campbell is like another thing that I just remembered when he comes back from getting the book and he knows it didn't all go according to plan, but everybody's congratulating him. They're all like, "Yeah, you did it." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's saying a few times. This last thing he says like, "Yeah, great. Now get the fuck out of my face." The F-bomb. The one F-bomb because they were trying to go PG-13. That's the one that they fit in there, and it's just I love that because I felt the same way. Like a lot of my wrestling matches I've had, and then like I'm just trying to make my way to the back afterwards. That's in my head. I don't say it, but I'm like, so relatable. So relatable.
Yeah, this movie is a gem. Is there anything else anybody wants to say about this movie that maybe we skipped over?
I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to end. If there's anything you guys want to ask anybody on this panel in the chat, now is the time to get your questions in. Guys, what are you working on now on your channels?
What do we got coming up? We're finishing our Evil Dead Fortnite. So all Evil Dead movie drinking games are done. We have, I think, 4 total drinks for the franchise. Now it's some more new movies.
Well, before that, we have our, I guess, our bottom shelf horror podcast we irregularly upload for, and it's we're ranking every Evil Dead movie in the franchise. That'll be coming out. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but it might be Tuesday. We'll see. But but yeah, we have that coming out, and then we're making videos for Renfield, which just came out recently.
That was fun.
Yeah, that's a fun movie. And what else after that?
Beau is Afraid.
Beau is Afraid. Yeah.
I want to see that one. That looks like a trip.
I know.
It does.
And for fans of Renfield, they're working on another kind of independent, like separate from a universe type Universal movie called Dracula's Daughter, where these freaking dumbass kidnappers kidnap Dracula's daughter. Like, one, she a vampire. Two, you think Liam Neeson's is scary? Wait till you see who her dad is.
Yeah, right.
I was just thinking it'd end up like Audition or something.
Yeah. Another one for recommendations, Ariel mentions Xena, which also had involvement from Sam Raimi, and said if you like Xena, if you like those Hercules shows, and you haven't seen this is one you need to see.
Well, that's another big bad, as we were talking about Ruby herself in Ash vs. Evil Dead. She is like, her and her children are very big bads. Plus, they have like some other cool demons that they like explore that are in the book, and that vibrating skinless looking one that's really rad. That's in the game
super
as well.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, so there's like they've been exploring more with the different type of demons.
What about you, Mav? What are you working on?
I talked about it at the beginning. I'm going to be reviewing the entire Are You Afraid of the Dark series. I'm going to get back on that train. So I did the first episode a few months ago. Things have kind of like Scream 6 came out, and we were doing a stab-a-thon. So we were doing watch-alongs for all that. I'm going to try to start live streaming at least once a week. I don't know if that'll be I'll start that this month or next month. My schedule's just insane right now. I've got a bunch of unboxing videos, a bunch that I've done, and a bunch more that I got to catch up on. Speaking of alcohol and being an alcoholic, I was drunk as shit one night, and I saw some Blue Moon had a special going on, or not Blue Moon. I always say Blue Moon. Yeah, speaking of being an alcoholic, Full Moon.
You're in good company.
Yeah, I bought this like package that I still have yet to open, so I'm gonna do an unboxing video on that. I can show it to you guys if you want.
Oh, fine! I just got a new Full Moon movie. I got Piranha Women. That looks like so much fun.
I just got the 12-disc Blu-ray Puppet Master thing from.
Oh, very nice.
So I haven't opened that yet, but this down here, I apologize. So unprofessional.
You're good. You're good. You brought the frilly shirts. That makes up for everything.
This box.
Oh, it's a buck, yeah.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. I don't know what's in it, but that's what the whole.
We love Full Moon, a lot. We just did a Full Moon fight night on this channel.
Oh yeah. I was there for it. I was there for when you guys did the Puppet Master on Steam. That was.
We love Full Moon.
Awesome.
We're Full Moon people.
Yeah, I used to. And I will hopefully get back to my Full Moon reviews.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing an unboxing video for that big bastard here soon. So I got a bunch of random stuff, like I'm trying to be like Sam Raimi. I don't want to be pigeonholed into doing one thing, not just Halloween or Scream. So trying to do a little bit of everything.
You got layers like an onion.
Exactly. I'm an ogre underneath this mask, believe it or not. I'm a goddamn ogre. So,
I dig it.
Yeah, so I just got a bunch. I just bought the full series of Ren and Stimpy, so I'll be doing that eventually.
I love Ren and Stimpy so much.
Yeah,
Powdered toast, man.
Exactly. That might be my next outfit.
I'm the bloody head fairy.
Yeah, show up
that
dressed like powdered
cartoon.
toast, man. Yeah, so it's all about time for me and how much time I can actually do to or how much I have to do this stuff. But I get it out there when I can. So. Just a little bit of everything. Variety is the spice of life.
Nice.
I'm not good at staying on schedule either. I get it out when I can. Hopefully I can start doing some more Full Moon reviews. I have a few that I'm working on. I'm trying to work on something hopefully for Mother's Day as well. But definitely
I just introduced him to Flesh Eating Mothers. Yeah. You're welcome,
nice.
world.
It's a good movie. And then obviously tomorrow night we'll be reviewing Evil Dead Rise. So
I want to get back into making more just video reviews because I watch a lot of obscure shit, and I really that's the whole point of making a channel. I want to tell people about it. So I want to do that. I'm working through it. What I have planned for sure is next week on this channel, come back, same gory time, same gory place. We're going to be talking about the Evil Dead remake. The following week, we're going to be doing Evil Dead Rise. And then I might take a little time off because we're going to do Crypticon where we're panelists, and I get to interview Alex Vincent this year, guys. Freaking Andy.
Time to play Hide the Soul.
So cool.
Really excited.
Yeah, I also have another I have another question. Without giving your rankings in case it's going to spoil any of your other streams.
What's your ranking?
Where do you rank this movie, or what is your ranking of the Evil Dead movies?
This movie in particular for Army of Darkness. I don't want to say it, but like, okay, hear me out. I'll preface this by saying I love every single movie in this franchise, and every single movie is an A at least, if not A plus or S now with the S tiers. But the lowest, I don't even want to say least favorite because I still love it, but Army of Darkness is probably at the bottom for me. But don't let that don't let that ruin this movie, or don't take that word for not going to watch it, because
it's so hard.
And I feel bad putting anything.
It's like saying which is your favorite child. You love them all.
Yeah, exactly.
Choice.
Yeah, and So, and like I said in our video that's going to be coming out here in a couple days, I feel bad for it, but I had to put something there, and ultimately that's what I ended up with, and I feel like I need to explain myself because of that. But I still love it. So.
I think every movie in this franchise fulfills something for me. This is by far the most fun. And so in that respect, it is number one. As far as overall ranking, where I consider everything, I'm looking at visuals and characters and everything, I'd probably put it at number 3 after Evil Dead 2 and the remake, which unpopular opinion, I think is just really, really great. I do love this one though. So it's definitely in my top 3.
I think it's in the middle for me too. Probably my third one. I really have to think about that. I've only seen the newest one once, and I don't know exactly where they will all fall in the end of that. This is definitely the most quotable one for me. It's also the one I will show anybody who I think can't handle a good, like, really horror movie, or just somebody who's wants more of a fun, lighthearted adventure. I will definitely have this up there. I love this movie. When I saw it at 9 years old, at that moment in time, it was my favorite movie at all.
As a kid, this was the one I watched the most because it was so much fun.
Eventually, Evil Dead 2 became my favorite, but this one, I saw this before that, and this, like I said, I saw this, it blew my little brain, and it was my favorite movie right then.
I think this is the best Ash movie.
Yeah. I mean, he still has an arc. He's fully developed into this kind of cheeseball character at this point, but he still has an arc.
Right.
And this is a question I think I can answer really quick. Shark by 84 says, the new film, am I the only one who didn't see the Delta 88? Well, one, it's not a Sam Raimi directed movie, so you don't need the Delta 88. However, what they did to homage the Delta 88, when you see a chainsaw in the film, they painted it specifically to be the color of it. So that's a little Easter egg nod to the classic.
Cool. Alex, did you give your ranking on the franchise?
I did not. Should I rank the whole franchise? Do you want me to rank?
Good.
Or wherever this one falls in. You can do whatever.
Or where does this one fall for you? Like for me, I'll just keep it short. This is my favorite. This is my number 1.
This is my second least favorite. You guys would be more upset to hear what I have for every other spot.
I kind of want to hear now.
Well,
I love them all. There's no wrong answer.
Right.
So this is what I have. I have the remake as my first favorite, followed by Evil Dead Rise. Next is the original, and then very last I have Evil Dead 2.
I think that remake's great too. Like, unpopular opinion, I have it above the original.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And we're going to talk about that next week on this channel. I think it's really exceptional.
It's like, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I'm grading 5 papers. They're all A's. Just some are A plus, and maybe some are A minus.
It's like picking the tops of your class and ranking them against each other. Every movie in this franchise has at least an A. It's just some of them offer a little bit more. I'm getting character development and more scares. It's like, okay, I'm getting for me, a little more value from it, but that doesn't mean that what I'm getting from the other ones is any less tthan what it is. They're all A movies.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
At that point, it's just preference.
Exactly. I really do love the character development and the feels I get from that remake. That's just me. You may not need that. And if you don't need that and you just want some laughs, this is number one, the one you should see.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I think absolutely. If you're having buddies over and you're drinking and you're having a good time, this is the movie you need to watch. Like, this is the one. This is the one you're going to have the most fun with. This is the kind of movie. It's great if you're sitting down and watching. We watched it today. I had no devices out or nothing. But even if you have it on the background, you got pizza and some beers out and you're having fun, you can tune in every 5 seconds or so and catch a great one-liner. Exactly. This movie delivers. This is this is the best movie of the franchise to watch with friends.
And
I'd say yes.
2 and this one, they're like kind of my comfort ones. Sometimes if I just can't sleep, I will put them on and I'll dream like happily, fall asleep with one of them. I will also, if I'm not feeling good, if I'm like super depressed or just literally sick, I will gladly watch 2 or 3. Like those ones are the ones that will cheer me up and make me feel a little bit better inside regardless.
Right.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me in this love fest of Army of Darkness, because I love this movie and I had so much fun talking to you guys about why you love this movie.
Yeah. Thank you for having us on. It was awesome.
To everyone in the chat, these guys are awesome. I'm a big fan of both of these channels. Their links are in the description below. You're going to see it during the credits. So, go in there, check them out. They're on Instagram. They're on YouTube. Both awesome channels that I highly recommend. And of course, Danny, I'm over on Horror Addicts too. So if you want to see more of me or just more of him, check out Horror Addicts.
Cheers to Fears. Thanks for having a beer with us and talking about this. Maverick, thanks for taking some time out of destroying Parliament for us.
My mommy says that. She always says, I really like that guy, but because she's British, she's just like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm like, Mom, he didn't really blow up Parliament.
Yeah, no.
It's not the actual guy.
He's working on it.
Chill a bit.
It's not November 5th
I want to
yet.
have a drinking night with the guys from Cheers to Fears.
Certainly,
we can arrange something for sure.
Yes, I'm down. I do love a good drinking game.
Yep. Yeah, this was a blast, and I thank you both, Danny and Gory, and Cheers to Fears. It was great meeting you guys. Thank you for having me. This was awesome. Awesome time.
This is a good panel. Lots of awesome people on this panel. Thank you guys so much for making this a lot of fun.
Go sub. If you haven't already.
Sub, everybody. Join me next week as the Evil Dead Fest continues, because seriously, every movie in this franchise is fucking awesome. We're going to talk about the remake. And yes, even the remake in this franchise is awesome. What? Is it possible? Absolutely. 100%. The remake's fucking awesome. So please join me next week. Same gory time, same gory place. We're going to talk about that remake. Danny will be back.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat, raise your beers. Even the people who are just creeping, don't say anything. Give this chat a thumbs up.
Ooh, thank you.
These people are awesome. They all
Thanks for hanging out in the gory hole.
Cheers.
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 And until we meet again, blessed be.